Well, apparently it's that time of the morning where we start the show right here on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler with you until 10 a.m. That's just 4 measly little hours to tell you about all the good things and some of the inane things that are going on out there locally and nationally. Today, temperatures, of course, adjusted downwards by the weather prognosticators from our friends at Denver 7. Picture of a cloud with a lightning bolt. Storms and cooler, 71 degrees. I woke up to rain when I drove in. Billy, was it raining where you were?
Yeah, it was raining last night, and then light sprinkles.
Yeah, light sprinkles. I guess that's true.
Wasn't bad. But yeah, thunderstorms in our area last night, but I was on the north side of town, and so, but a little bit of rain driving home, but it was dry in the north side.
Really?
Yeah, last night.
Loud kaboom last night.
Yeah,
really
loud
nine
kabooms.
Something, like boom, and then even this morning, like you see the light flash, like right outside the blinds kind of a thing, like boom, I saw that, and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I knew something was up, that it was much more thundery and rainy over here when I got home because our dog was hiding in the closet. So I get home, and normally she's like, you're back. Oh, my God, 3 hours. It felt like forever. And, oh, God, you can give me all the love now. And instead, she slowly comes out of the closet like, did you hear it?
Yeah, that's right. Did you do it?
Yeah, exactly. So,
so we're going to have only slightly warmer weather tomorrow, 74 degrees with more lightning bolts.
Harold.
Yeah, 83 degrees on Sunday, more lightning bolts, 85 Monday. And then after that, it's just a guess. They have a big old shiny ball of fire on Wednesday at 92 degrees, but who knows, man?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, let the interns do that part of the weather forecast.
I'm not sure that the interns don't do the entire weather forecast.
That's a good observation.
I wonder if there's like a weather Ouija board. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they just press on, like, what will the weather be today? And there's the different pictograms, and someone's got their finger on it, and they're yelling, Tom, you're pushing.
Yes. It's either that, or it's like that giant wheel where they go, and it spins.
Come on, tornado. Come on, tornado.
Yes.
Click, 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 click. Oh,
big money.
Dang it, it's earthquake.
Exactly. Oh, damn.
We only had the one chance.
Yeah.
Speaking of earthquakes, for folks that listen in the afternoon, there's a guy named Stefan Tubes there. He announced yesterday he is coming out as a man. No, I'm kidding. He is announcing that he is retiring from radio.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
It's just weird.
It's really weird.
First off, you look at the guy and you think, you must have been in this business for 70 years.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I'm kidding.
Absolutely.
33 years is impossible to imagine.
Yeah,
it's like
hard.
He's been doing this since he was in high school or something. You know what I mean? Like,
it's bizarre, and radio is a very weird career. And we were talking about this a little bit off the air, that there's a point where you've been doing radio long enough that it impairs your ability to get a regular job. That is both positive and negative.
I thought you were going to say relate to the world.
Yeah, that too. It impairs your ability because you have developed a certain set of specific skills that, surprise, don't necessarily translate to a lot of other industries. There are things you can do, but it's difficult if you do this well, and you've been doing it a long amount of time. My buddy Brett Saunders over at KBCO, about 5-6 years ago, we were chatting, and he said, he goes, we're both of that age where we've done radio long enough. It's pretty much all we can do at this point. It's not like people are like, wow, radio, would you like to come teach a college class? No.
Right.
Yeah. What
or
you
perform
did,
this surgery.
Exactly. You did radio. Can you fly this plane too? No, that doesn't happen. Yeah. So it really impairs you. But the other part is that right here, it's like a drug. It really is. No. It's there is a certain thing about radio that is different than other mediums. It is the most immediate and the one in which you have the most response. And because it is an auditory medium, it's ingested and it goes through the brain differently. How you bring signals into your brain and take it in through your ears is different than how you absorb them with your eyes. We heard it from one of our callers yesterday where he listened to the debate rather than watch it.
Yeah.
And of course, we know the famous example of the Nixon-Kennedy, that it depends on if you listened or watched, you had a different winner. And this is different because of the auditory nature of it. And it's unlike anything else out there. And because of the immediacy and the response, it's not the same as podcasting. Podcasting is talking to yourself, but this is a conversation with people. And there's nothing else like it. And you do it long enough, there's this buzz that gets in the back of your head. I left for about 3 months at one point, and I couldn't take it. And I was working for a marketing company, and nice enough people. Well, except for two of them, they can die in a fire.
The third one was great.
Yeah, those two guys can die in a fire for many reasons, but it's this thing that's, and I'm serious about that too. I am not sugarcoating this. Yeah, one of them was we're not getting into that. There's something about the interaction and the buzz that happens inside of radio, which makes sense why you have a lot of these long-term radio people, and also makes sense why you have a lot of short-term radio people, because some people go, wow, that drug sucks, and then they don't do it anymore. And same thing in radio, where it gets difficult. But you do it long enough, yeah, it's a craving, and so it's going to be tough. I wish him the best. I'm super, super curious to see what he does, because I know that he says that he does not have something in mind or planned, and there's something there. And I'm not saying that he has, hey, here's my next job and I'm coming in. Yeah, no. But he has something that he is pursuing. There is something that is a passion that he has got inside his heart and his mind that is driving him in this direction. And I'm excited to see what that is. And I'm glad he didn't tell us what exactly is coming, because I really want to see that reveal. But in order to give this up, there's got to be a big pull. So I'm excited to see what his next chapter is, and I wish him well. And I miss him. I knew him back in the day when he was just a lowly reporter. Really? He was making his bones at KOA. Yeah, I worked with him way back then. So, yeah, we were with each other during the Columbine shooting and a whole bunch of other stuff. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
My weird connection to Stefan, other than I'm his spiritual mentor, is that...
Oh, that explains the hugs.
Yeah, okay. They're weird. But his ex-wife went to high school with me.
Wow.
And they met in San Diego.
Yeah.
So first off, she graduated from high school. It's a huge thing if you went to my high school. And then moved to Southern California and met up with Stefan. And I guess they got married, had two great boys, came back here. And that's how he ended up back here.
Yep.
So you're welcome, Colorado. I feel like I played some small role in there, because not that it was ever, ever, ever on the table, but I didn't date her. I mean, I could have ruined things.
Yeah, you could have. Absolutely. Or he could have been the bar that it's like, wow, he's so much better.
There's no chance she, just to be clear, folks, there's no chance she'd have ever gone out with me. Kristen was way more attractive than I was entitled to. So let's be honest.
She was out of the league.
Not even the same sport. Honestly, it would have been.
That's one of the good things as you're growing up as a boy. You gotta realize, where exactly you sit there. That
it takes a while to find that out. The heartache. I worry about that for the boys going through the heartache stuff, where it feels like there could be no pain worse than this.
Yeah.
It is captured best by Shakespeare when he has two teenagers kill themselves over each other at the end of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, it's like, well, that is real. That is the kind of crazy stuff. You just want to get your kids through it and be like, I promise you,
it's gonna get better.
I promise you look back on this and think, what was I doing, man? What was I thinking?
Okay, wait. Now let's talk about that. Worst breakup early on in your relationships. I know I never even talked to you about this, but what was the worst one? Because boy, do I have a good one. Oh boy.
Yeah. I got a good one. For me, if I'm on the couch here on the radio couch doing this, I don't recall having a relationship longer than 6 weeks, and there were a serial number of them for years. I mean, I'm talking through college, through law school. I mean, just a lot of 6 weekish ones. And then all of a sudden I dated this one woman for just shy of a year, and then she dumped me. And of course, when you've only had 6 weeks, right? Like when you've been doing 6 weeks,
a year is like your soulmate.
Yeah, right. You're like, this is too wild. And then she dumped me, and I remember thinking to myself, why get out of bed anymore? Clearly, I've reached the pinnacle of happiness and it's been ripped away. I'll just lay here until I die. And then you realize that's stupid too, because there's so many other women to dump you out there.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like we should find them.
So much
Give them an excuse to dump you.
Yeah, why not? Yes.
And so that happened. And but that was later. I mean, I had to have been 25 or something like that. Because up until that point, it's 6 weeks. I guess maybe I couldn't fall in love at 6 weeks, but it's 6 weeks. It was just enough time to.
We're finding out a lot about you.
Anyway, go on. Billy,
Mine was high school, where a girl I was dating at the time, we've been dating for a few months, and it was at her birthday party. I had helped plan with her friends this birthday party for her, and during part of the party, what would going to be the end. She leaves for a little bit and comes back with the ex to announce to everybody that she's breaking up with me and back together with him.
She announced it publicly, like,
yes.
She Kim Kardashian you before there was social media.
Yes.
Holy crap.
In front of all of her friends.
Were you there?
And yes, I was
there. Did she tell you
there.
ahead of time, like, hey, Billy?
No, and I helped plan the party. And she did this in front of everybody.
Did she hate you, man? My God,
I don't know. It was hard. That was a really difficult one. So I took one of her best friends to prom.
But what in that moment, Billy, as you're standing there and you're beaming and you're like, oh, this is, and I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is like
here's
Hollywood.
the thing. Here's the thing is that he was always a little bit of a shadow, throughout the relationship. There just were some mentions or some things. And it was something that I had learned from some previous girls that I had dated very briefly. And so I knew that there was at least still an attraction there. And I knew that he was very upset that I was dating her. I had known that just through the grapevine type of thing. And even though we went to totally different schools, I wasn't even in the same school or nothing else like that.
How long had you been dating this person?
3.5 months. So again, high school.
Now for me, that's
it's not eternity. Good. Yeah, I know, but I mean, high school that is an eternity. I mean, high school that's practically an entire semester. So yeah. So again, that's the idea. And so it wasn't like, hey, we're totally in love and we're gonna get married.
Really,
none of that
stuff. Hear the Love Boat theme in the back.
No, not at all. But it was someone that I had a nice connection with, and I thought we really kind of clicked. And the issue is I still remember turning and seeing her walking with him and holding his hand, and at that point I knew. Before she ever opened her mouth. It's obvious.
So you watched buddy, this is such a traumatic thing.
I know. It kind of explains some of why I haven't broken it just this way and twisted. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
the scarring.
That was awful.
You must have some sort of PTSD for a time there.
Yeah, there were some times. Yeah, it was difficult.
Like you get that Herbert Lom twitch in the Pink Panther, with that.
However, the thing is, she was a cheerleader. So I took another member of the cheerleading squad to prom that year. And took her in, and I drove her in the same car that I had taken her to homecoming earlier in the year. So there was a
was there any
revenge
reaction? Was she like, or was she just like, hey, Billy, good to see you, buddy?
No, I found out later that she left the dance early and cried that night.
Why would she cry? She was with the dude she wanted to be
I
with.
know, but the issue was that she felt that and it was exactly what I was doing, and she got it. That I was basically saying, I can do this, but with somebody else, and you don't matter. That is exactly what I was doing. Yeah, exactly. Especially because,
buddy, that is the most cutthroat story, though, I think I've ever heard. Like, Billy, help me plan a party at which I will announce in front of you and our friends. That, I mean, oh my God, that is.
Yeah. So I had zero.
That really is Kim
regret.
Kardashian quality stuff.
Yeah,
right
I had
there.
Zero regret though of taking the other girl. And the issue was I'm talking, we're a high schooler. And the reason it was a big deal is we went, and there was I took her to homecoming, and we went in a Porsche. I drove a Porsche to high, and so this was a big thing for her.
His German car.
Yeah, I do. And so when I brought the other girl to prom in the same Porsche, that was and the idea that I was there, and I might have been wearing very similar colors as we were when we went to homecoming. It absolutely was a callback. I was making
and homecoming
it look
must have been a good memory.
Yeah, it was. It was a good memory. And so
was
prom.
You didn't do anything like, I'm going to go get your mom or something like that. Not like.
No, I went out.
Or your sister.
No, I went out and I
or
sat.
Your brother. I don't know. I'm not judging.
No, I went out and I went out and I left and I sat away from the rest of the group and, tried not to cry for a while. And had a couple, had a couple of her friends come over and sit next to me, etc. And they're like, I don't know what she did. This is just crap. And I'm sorry, etc. Yeah. So then I heard that, one of the other people on the team thought that I was cute. And so I'm like, aha, a plan is hatched.
Wow. Some of the textures here, even someone said, keep talking, Billy, this is helping. Not even, so it's helping what?
Yes.
What is it helping?
Yeah, it's cathartic. Yes.
Oh, it says, so drama queen Steve Tubbs is retiring on top. So he says, LOL, such a drama queen. I think that's actually Stefan.
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
In about himself.
But there's this thing that very few people in radio ever get to call their shot when they walk away, because normally they take this mic from you.
At the beginning of the show.
Yeah, they normally take it from you, and there are signs that if you've done this long enough, the meetings, when they call you, and you're like, buddy. There was one I told you. There was one where they called me one day, and I knew exactly what the meeting was. And this is hours before we had the conversation. I called my wife and I'm like, yeah, it's over. And she's like, what? How do you know? I'm like, listen.
Did she know you were talking about the job?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This
was. Oh, yeah. She, No.
You weren't pulling an in front of the party with friends thing.
Well, unfortunately, at first she's like, yay, I'm free. And I'm like, no, the job. And she goes, oh, okay, sorry.
So now I've got you.
Yes, exactly. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Buddy, so that's interesting. Yeah. I haven't been in this game long enough to know that, but
you still have this innocent eyes and hope and dreams. It's wonderful.
I used words like trust.
Exactly.
With Billy, and he laughed. He openly mocked me.
Yes, I did.
No trust in radio.
No.
What are you talking about?
What the heck are you talking about?
Mutual respect?
Yes.
What are you talking? You're such an idiot. I'm like, what? I am?
I know. But again, it is so cute. I almost wanted to pat you on the top of the head and go, it is adorable. You see this much joy and hope still inside of you.
This year too. Of course he's coming. Of course.
Yes.
You've been a good little boy.
Yes, and he's going to have the pony.
Yeah, it was very dismissive. It was unsettling. I started looking at the door to see if Brian and Kelly were coming in with a box.
Yeah, exactly.
Is today the day? Are you trying to signal today's the day?
Oh, that box. I hate that box.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's if they let you leave with your stuff.
That is true. Sometimes it's like you can't take any of that.
Really, one of the only things I have in my little locker, and folks, you should know they give us these little lockers. They're not big lockers. They're like a little square. Like you could jam a couple pair of shoes in there if you had to, although I don't know why you're doing that.
It's like the small lockers you have at the gym or at the pool. Yeah, where you can just barely fit in your clothes.
Yeah, put your drugs in there while you swim.
Exactly. Yeah. Hunter recommends them
the only
highly.
things I really have in there are a couple things that listeners have sent, which I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Hang on to that. And then my certificate for having been an employee for over a year.
Hey, nice. I have one back there, and I don't know what's in it.
Huh?
No.
Some people like
no
Tommy
idea.
locks his.
Well, mine's locked too.
Why? What's going on? What am I missing?
I don't know where the key is. I've lost it.
So that's it.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to clip you right off of there.
It's a big master lock. And the thing is, I know there are some beer pint glasses in there that I got from Casey Bloyer. I know those are in there, but I don't know what else is in there. I don't remember. It's been that long.
Could it be a puppy?
Not at this point. It'd be a dead puppy.
I didn't specify whether it was alive or not. That's craziness.
Yeah, I have no idea what's in there. So I figured that if the day in which they escort me out of here, kicking and screaming, I'm gonna have a nice little surprise. It'll be like,
they will. They will.
Yeah, that's true. Or I'll just leave them the challenge of cutting the lock off, which again, that's gonna take some time.
If you don't
it's
have
not just regular bolt cutters.
What if someone screams out, "It's still alive"? I mean, something like that.
Then I hope that it jumps and eats their face. Because again, they're making me leave. So why not? Anyway. Let's hope. Let's hope it's mutated, eating whatever's in there. And just go,
it's weird. I'm not good with change. Right? Like I am sentimental enough that even with some things, I caught my brother telling someone, where were we? He came into town, for the birthday stuff and all that. Who the heck was he talking to? And he said, George is a little bit of a hoarder. And it's like, but I'm not hoarding things because like if there's some sentimental attachment to it, like, oh, that's the shirt I wore when this event happened.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I can't get rid of that. And they're like, dude, you have drawers full of shirts that are tied to, one or two. Like, come on, man. And I'm like, this is the tie I got when they're like, just get rid of stuff, man. Give a goodwill or a memory too. And I'm like, but I did. And so I describe that as a way of saying when somebody says, hey, I'm moving on, it feels very much like I imagine, because I don't know, somebody you served a sentence with being paroled. Do you know what I mean? It's that sense of you're waving to them as they go out into the world. Like Stefan, I feel like we know that Stefan's release date is November the 3rd. And we're all going to be holding on to the bars, waving.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Hey, come back and see us.
Don't come back. No, don't come back, dude. Don't come back. We'll see you out there in the world, man. Be happy.
I keep thinking, come back and bring the cake and the file so we can cut our bar. Yeah.
And it's felt that way every time. It was worse when I was the DA. First off, this 2-week thing is garbage. We started to talk about this the other day. If you're leaving a prosecutor's job, that the process to hire you took more than 2 weeks.
Months.
So you showing up on a Monday and announcing in the afternoon, I'm leaving a week from Friday. Screw you, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so my inclination was, if you did that to me, I just wanted to cut you loose right away.
Yeah.
Now I couldn't do it for the obvious reasons that you still need someone to prosecute the cases. But when people would quit on me as DA, I took it personally. Like, even though I know it was money or they're moving or, they're having kids or some selfish stuff like that, I was like, well, you can find another soulmate, or you know what I mean? Like you don't.
Do you need all those kids?
You don't have to feed all the kids at once.
Yeah. Buy enough food for 3 and make the 4 of them fight it out.
Or I'll find come to me before your heart gets hard on this, right? Because we are a greener pastures people, you know, and once you've committed yourself to the optimism of that next thing, really nothing anybody can tell you.
Yeah, that's a good thing, to come to me before your heart is hardened. That's a really good idea as a manager. However, this is why you will enjoy your journey in radio a lot more, because in radio,
today, as far as we know,
in radio, when you give your 2 weeks, that is your last day. Yeah, that is that. Yeah, 99% of the time.
2 weeks, that's the day you announce it.
The day you announce it.
Except for Stefan.
Yeah, and it's very nice that they're letting him. But 99% of the time, I was at a radio group that we will stay nameless. And I said that I was leaving in 2 weeks, and I know for a fact that the general manager at the time cursed me, my family, and threw something.
Yeah. Why your family? Yeah. You, I get, but why your family?
You have to know him, and that's just how he rolls. And threw things, and wanted to toss me out that day. And the person that's the assistant looked at him in the eye and said, "Who are you going to have replace him tomorrow morning?"
Yeah.
And he went,
"You were the Great Oz."
Damn it. No, it's just I knew how to. I was the circus master. I could keep the animals under control, and that was the role. And they understood that this was a live wire, and you just can't walk in there and drop anybody in there, because the person will end up after their first show crying in the corner, and then it's an HR issue. So that was the kind of thing.
See, that's the other thing is HR, which is so critical these days, but mostly from the standpoint of liability avoidance.
You know what I mean? Like they're not on the employee side. No way in hell.
No, but that thing has taken over running the ship in a way that just is heartbreaking. But here, I don't know. If I ever go see HR, it's usually about, hey, was I supposed to get paid more?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's never about anything else.
Is this check just a tip? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Hey, if I go away and do military stuff, do I still get paid? Like, how does this whole? I mean,
how does it possibly? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got on all this stuff with Stefan, but it's a big deal. We should probably.
It's huge.
Yeah, there's no chance we talk about it in the 8 o'clock. But here in the 6 and the safety of the 6, we can say all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of things about him.
Stefan also did a little bit of a video, I think, from that room down the hall here where we do all the shoot and all that stuff.
I love the fact that that's the first thing. While he's talking, I'm sitting there and I had to rewatch it again, because I spent the first half of it going, "What room is he in?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh wait, I'm not listening."
Yeah, it was the Mark Crowley room,
exactly.
With the video cameras and stuff.
I'm like, who has plants? I'm
and
like,
he announces, "Hey, I'm not going to do fill-in work," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Even judges that retire go back to the senior circuit. You know what I mean? Like, why do that?
Oh, we'll get him back. Again, I told you, the drugs.
It's weird you describe it that way. I love this part of it, but the trial work is that for me.
Yes.
And the feedback is different. It's also a different, but it has some similarities. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely. Yep.
The feedback piece is real, but I miss being a prosecutor a lot, but even not being a prosecutor, just being in the courtroom and slugging it out, but trying to convince 6, 12, however many people, like, believe me, don't believe those guys.
I love that, because the best way I've ever heard radio being talked about is it's like working in a circus, which makes a lot of sense. But you show up in the day, they hand you your helmet and say, "Okay, get in the cannon. We're about to shoot it," but you have no idea where you're going. And that's the experience of doing this. And I think in many ways, that's the idea of being the prosecutor, where you get up on that tightrope in front of the crowd and there's no net. So you've got to make sure whatever it is to get from one side to the other, whatever your performance is, whatever you've planned has to go perfectly. Otherwise, you fall and it's a giant splat in front of everybody.
Well, it's not going to go perfectly. I mean, what I like about it is the fact that it's not going to go perfectly, but your ability to respond to the unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
Better than the other side can respond to the unpredictable. And, we were going to talk about the whole trial thing with Trump too and all that. And
talk about that.
I was trying to figure out a way to not have a conversation about his arrest and a mugshot thing. I don't know how you can do it though. I mean, we have a mugshot for a former president of the United States.
And he's going to fundraise off of it. That's the weird part. Yeah.
I think his approach to this has been, smart. from his standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there's just
tactically very intelligent.
This was very judo. You know what I mean? Okay, take your mugshot. You're going to force me to have a mugshot? Okay, now I want the mugshot.
And I want to know. I want to know how long he spent practicing that look in front of the mirror, because that is not just off the cuff.
But that look, if you can go Google this, we'll look. But that's the same look. You know how every federal building has a picture of the president, the vice president, and the department head, wherever you are. That's his look in the presidential picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody else is smiling. I remember the Bush one, he's smiling, Obama smiling, and then Trump's is that scowl. I mean, that's not just for the mugshot.
That's because you see him smiling. It's nobody believes it. When he's scowling, you're like, yeah, that's him. When he's smiling, you're like, yeah, he's pretending. I mean, come on. Have you seen a picture of him smiling where you're like, that's not genuine?
But
that's not genuine.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
What I haven't heard him do is belly laugh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And speaking of belly laughs, when they reported that dude was 6'3", 215, I was a spit take.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're not.
No, not
Clearly
at all.
they didn't weigh him. They asked him.
Yes,
right?
they
like,
did.
215.
Yeah.
Both feet on the scale.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
There's no way.
And it's not a huge deal other than the vanity of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just give it up, dude. You are 255 easy.
No.
There's
275. In fact, that was the
you
line.
Think so?
Oh, that was the line in Vegas. Didn't you see that?
No.
Yeah, there was a betting line in Vegas, and the over/under was 275. Yeah, he's 275.
275.
Yeah, he's
275. 215 is crazy.
No. And the reason he has to be that heavy is because of how mass distribution. He's what, 6'1"-ish, 6'2"?
6'3", he says.
Crap,
I'm telling you, it says 6'3".
I almost cursed there. I understand, but no. He's 6'1" to 6'2". That's how high.
So
that's how tall he is.
They didn't even measure his height.
No, not at all. And based on the mass distribution and how his body mass is, he's got to be near 275. Has to be. He's well over 250. Absolutely. Have you seen him playing golf?
This guy has lied about his height. I get the weight part.
The thing that I'm looking at is you're surprised. This is a dude that lied about how tall his buildings were. He lied about how many floors the buildings were.
Maybe
he lied about square footage.
Maybe it's not his fault.
He lied about square footage in the actual condos. Really? Surprise? A dude that chose to sell steaks at a store in the mall. Come on. Yes, of course he's going to lie about the height and everything else. Yeah, right. Yeah,
6'3", 215 is svelte. You know what I mean? That's svelte. There's just
no.
Well, I don't know. I maybe he's going off of the old stuff. That I don't know.
Well, it's the same thing every time when you renew your driver's license. You're like, yeah, sure, I'm still that weight. Yeah, we all do it. Yes,
I presume they go off the driver's license. Maybe it's 10 years old. You know, you don't have to renew it every 10 years. So maybe 10 years ago, maybe it's legit for the time that it was on the driver's license.
Sure could be. I am absolutely certain that at one point in his life he weighed 215. I am absolutely certain of that. I'm just not sure when.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Just a question of time.
The Army never believes you. Like I've had them believe me on height.
Yeah.
I've never had them believe me on weight.
No.
Like there's a lot going on there where dudes who at this point I outrank everybody who does it, but they're all very much like, how tall are you? And I'm like, sir. And I'm like, well, I'm 70 inches. I've been 70 inches since I was 17, 18, whatever. They'll buy that. But they don't even ask me my weight.
No.
They only ask where they put the little weight thing. You know what I'm talking about on that bar?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
which one goes
like,
across?
which 50-pound increment should I be shooting for? They're like, where do you think you're going to be? And I'm like,
you're going to go have to more.
Put it on.
Yeah, again. No, one more
put
over.
It on the 150 on the big one.
One more over.
And then we have to slide this one down.
Yeah. And then we got
right over here.
Oh, geez.
And then you just wait for it to stop clinking at the top.
Yeah.
You know, like
the
ping,
ping,
ping, ping, ping. And you're like, please don't go past.
Yeah, please don't.
But they'd never take me at my word on the weight thing.
No.
Ever.
And also, just a side note, how come the scale at the doctor's office and the scale you have at home are not the same? I don't know, again, which one is lying, but there's a 10-pound gap minimum normally between scale at home,
that's weird.
Scale at the doctor's office. And I don't know what's going on there.
Doctor doesn't seem to care about the number as much as I do. Like, they're like, just hop on the scale. I'm like, should I take my shoes and my 20-pound belt off?
Exactly.
And like, no, just climb
well,
up there.
These
I'm like,
socks add
why
so much?
are you doing it? If I'm wearing like this giant metal wetsuit, which I am, why are you even weighing me? What are you looking for?
Yes,
you know, like significant weight gain. Like I brought some dumbbells with me or something. Because don't you want accuracy? And part of it is they put the scale. This is probably a HIPAA violation. They put the scale where everybody can see it. But I'm willing to drop trow if it means taking some pounds off.
Oh yeah, I get no shame.
Because if I go down, I don't want them reporting me as 5'10", 215.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly,
I don't want 6'3", 215 sounds manageable.
It's great. Yeah.
5'10", 215 sounds like I just gave up.
Yeah.
You know, I've stopped. And for anyone who's out there listening, that's 5'10", 215, it's because of your muscles. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
And you're big boned.
And you're big boned and your muscles, your broad shoulders, your teeny tiny waist.
It's your father's genetics. Oh, speaking of genetics, we got to step aside here. It's a 35 after. That's not
What's our record?
36, it's Friday. 37. I think 37.
37?
We could break that easily.
Where do we put
hits 50,
this?
36.
Feels like the beginning of the right stuff. That Beeman lives out there at 37, George.
Yeah,
you know, and then I ask you for some Beemans. Can I borrow some Beemans? You know, I'll get you back. And pretty soon we're at 38 and the station starts shaking. And then that music comes on. That
and then the phone rings. You didn't play the commercials.
That's
right. And I have to explain it. Not you. I have to explain it.
And then people refer to this show as these guys talked about your last day on radio. It was their last day on radio. They didn't see it coming.
No idea.
People just showed up with a box.
The irony.
They pushed past that. They found the edge of that envelope out there at about 38, 39. Some people say it's at 40.
And that's where they caught fire.
We crash in. There's no parachutes from the sixth floor, folks.
No.
You just bounce.
Yes,
That's all there is to it. Well, speaking of bouncing, let's exit this flaming aircraft right now. When we come back, of course, we're going to get the Thorpe Report, but then the loser edition of You Choose the News. Looking forward to that. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Remember, Dennis Prager next Wednesday, 3rd annual cigar night with DP. But for right now, it's You Choose the News with William.
No, it's not. It's regular news.
I'm sorry.
You want to jump ahead? I'll do You Choose the
News. Wait a minute.
Now,
you know why it is? Because it's 6:42.
Yeah, exactly.
No, don't jump ahead. We must do the legitimate news of the day.
Because
this is what happens when you push past that envelope. By the way, Alexa, the informal formal historian, has announced that we went to 639 on 8/14, and that revelation was responded to by, how in the hell do you know that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do you know that fact?
Although I do view that as a challenge. So we are going to have to do that someday.
Maybe next week.
Yeah, I think we can do it. You and I, we got the stamina. All right. Heavy breathing. Okay. Heavy rain is going to be expected tonight, partially extended through Saturday across the Denver metro area. We actually have got a flash flood watch going into effect 9:00 this morning during our last hour of the show, and it's going to run through noon on Saturday. We'll include the entire metro area. They also have a flood watch issued for Grand, Summit, and Jackson counties. Again, thanks, Harold. That's what it is. The tropical storm Harold. We're getting some of that weather.
It's always something, Harold.
It is Harold. I hate Harold. Okay, never mind. Police are looking for 4 men involved in an armed robbery of a Longmont store on Wednesday. Officers were called to Famous Footwear at Ken Pratt Boulevard around 6 in the evening. Young men entered the store and gathered 10 to 12 pairs of shoes and left without paying for them.
Where was this?
Famous Footwear. I think they got away with tens of dollars in product. Longmont. But again, it's a Famous Footwear, and they stole shoes. What, you got away with $20? I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, well. Board of Education officials in Denver voted yesterday to support the district's decision to fire former McAuliffe International School principal Kurt Dennis. That'll be interesting. The board vote was 6-1. Also, we have a mother of a suspect accused of killing 2 brothers in a road rage shooting in I-25 in June, told KMGH, our friends over there, that his son was acting in self-defense. This is the one where it's a road ragey thing, and then they pull over, and one guy jumps onto the vehicle, and the guy starts driving away, then the passenger reaches out the gun and shoots him. He's saying that the passenger, the guy that pulled the gun and shot the other person, he was in fear of his life at that time, which... With
the dude on the hood of the car?
Yeah, which, again, interesting conversation. That could be an interesting idea as far as the defense and prosecution. Can you prove that? Yeah, because, again, you're on the hood of my car, etc., and yelling at me. Maybe I am a little scared. But
I could get being scared, but
shooting... Yeah, that's the
He's
thing.
on the hood of the car. You're inside the car.
Yeah.
Like, don't you just do that Hollywood thing, slam on the brakes, dude rolls off, and then you drive over him?
Exactly. And then you back up just to make sure he's dead. Yeah, exactly.
Lord.
Road rage incident that threatened the life of a Greeley man. He's fighting to regain mobility now. It's an awful story. Justin Young, 31, paralyzed after being shot in the spine by a driver in Greeley last month.
Oh, God.
Yeah, now he's in therapy right now. He was driving in Greeley evening of July 16th with his fiancée, 10-month-old daughter. Another man pulled up next to him, tried to egg him on into a street race. Young was rear-ended by the driver later on. He got out to assess his truck, confrontation with the driver, and again, we start yelling at each other. And of course, that ends in a shooting. What are we doing, people? Don't ever get out of the car on the road rage and the other stuff. But, and finally, Denver Mayor Mike Johnson has announced possible locations to help create 1,000 additional units of housing during an update yesterday morning. Yes. No, I heard Cherry Hills. No, it's not happening.
That's rich.
That's sorry about that. That was for me. Johnson said the sites are a variety of locations, all in the poor neighborhoods. Okay, I might have added that. 2 former hotels, a site that's connected to the Corky Gonzalez Library, because one thing we know is the homeless like to read. Then primary vacant plots of land. So, that's what we got. That's all. We can come do the fun stuff.
Maybe later on we'll talk about, too, there was a dude that got apprehended from a hit and run out in Parker.
Yeah, I did see that.
But remember, it starts with theft. This idea that people are just stealing because they're feeding their families is utter garbage. These are greedy, selfish, punk, violent criminals.
Yeah, it's not Jean Valjean. He's not stealing bread to feed his sister.
No, not at all.
Nope.
And we'll talk about it later, but this punk ended up running over and killing someone in a crosswalk trying to get away, and then just kept going because,
morals and stuff.
And that's right. And then finally got caught. This is going to be an 18th Judicial District case. I think it's actually going to end up staying in Douglas County. I guess fingers crossed it doesn't resolve before January of 2025. Let's just see what happens with the new DA, whoever's down there. But this is a case that cries out for justice.
It does. It's awful.
Unbelievable. What a punk. Anyhow,
who knew the guy that was stealing the car had no respect for the person walking across the street? Wow. Look at my surprised face.
And the shoplifting too, they're just stealing because they have needs.
Yeah, and they're stealing all of the medication because they just have a cold.
That's right. And shoes because they have so many feet.
I know, all the time.
Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back with the Thorpe No, I did that on purpose. We're going to come back with You Choose the News, the loser edition by Ronco. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the week and the show for the loser edition of You Choose the Booze.
I love that, how you think there. Yes, it is time for You Choose the News loser edition. Totally on brand for this guy behind the microphone. We're bringing you back the stories that George didn't have the temerity or testicular fortitude to choose earlier in the week, and we're giving him a second shot. All righty, sir. Here you go. Headline number 1, looted launch. Headline number 2, so that's where I left it. Headline number 3, no more being one with nature. And headline number 4, fiery new flavor. Once again, your choices on our fake radio news game this morning, loser edition, is looted launch. So that's where I left it. No more being one with nature and fiery new flavor. What is your choice?
Familiar.
Yeah, they are.
So that's where I left it?
So that's where I left it. We're traveling to Idaho Falls. Recently, a missing SUV was recovered after it was pulled out of the Snake River. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Aquatic Rescue Team found the GMC Envoy under the water near the Veterans War Memorial. A guy that was looking for crayfish found a license plate about a week ago in the area. So they went diving and found the SUV. That was a huge surprise to the Lasher family. About a year ago, their SUV disappeared. Well, it turns out that Mr. Lasher got super drunk one night, drove the SUV into the river, and then walked home. He woke up the next morning, but was so drunk, he forgot where he left the vehicle. Literally, they had no idea that he got drunk and drove it into the river until they found it. Yeah, we all been there.
What can you do?
I know, it's called college. We've all done that. Yeah.
Not my car.
Next, had a friend that rolled his drunk one time. That was fun. In a field. Again, decisions. Looted launch. No more being one with nature and fiery new flavor.
No more being one with nature. Please.
No more. You cannot do this anymore in this area of Stoke Fruit Farm at Highland Island in Britain. Yes. Now, a number of years ago, Sam Wilson decided that, well, he wanted to plant some flowers after he asked his blushing bride to marry him, and things were wonderful when they moved in. They planted the sunflowers. Ever since then, they have gone crazy. There is a huge field of sunflowers. People come there to take pictures and do selfies and get naked.
What?
Yes, naked.
Where?
Britain. So we can't see it. I know. It's again, lots of sunscreen. It's Britain. So he's had to post signs recently in a sunflower field. Please stop taking your clothes off. It can scare the children, because he had so many social media influencer types and, the smarty pants's coming there and doing naked pictures in the sunflowers. So he said, this is why we can't have nice things and we can't have nudity in public view with the children around. But he actually had to have signs made. Stop taking your clothes off in the sunflowers. I love that. I want that sign.
I want that picture myself.
I want that. All righty, last choice. Looted launch or fiery new flavor?
Fiery new flavor.
Fiery new flavor. We are traveling to Springfield, Missouri, and here we have a marketing idea from a woman. She has decided, Patricia Williams, 42, that maybe you're using your tortilla chips incorrectly.
That's not a euphemism.
Yeah, not at all. This comes after police arrived at the scene of her house, seeing smoke coming from the back door and people standing out front. Report states that witnesses inside the house saw Miss Williams pour gasoline from a soda bottle onto clothes on the floor of the laundry room, where then she took out a Taki tortilla chip, lit it on fire, and tossed it into the laundry room. Yes, she used a tortilla chip to light the fire. Again,
why?
Creative. I'm not sure. I don't know. Again, she was seen earlier on gas station surveillance footage paying for just $2 worth of gasoline to fill the big soda bottle with. Court documents say she admitted to police that she did start the fire intentionally. Because she hates everybody else in the house. No, I added the last part.
That's kind of genius, though. If you could get the chip burned up, then people are like, well, we know what the accelerant was, but what lit this?
What lit this? And here's the thing is she admitted that she used the chips because she knew that the grease content in the chips are flammable. Also, spaghetti. You can light the tip of a spaghetti and it'll burn as well.
Again, you and Alexa have information that no human should acquire.
It's fairly useless.
I'm just saying. Listen, stick around. Josh Sharf from the Independence Insitute, Complete Colorado. When we come back, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Well, welcome to the second of 4 hours right here on the George Show, 710 KNUS. We get replaced at 10 o'clock by the national guys, including at 11, a guy named DP, Dennis Prager. He'll be with us at the Centennial located View House. By the way, there's more than one. If you just Google View House and drive to it, you could be disappointed. It's the Centennial one, the one that's so conveniently located right off of I-25, right around Dry Creek and Arapahoe in between there. Go to 710knus.com, click on the banner, get the ticks, and then I'll see you there. Apparently, I'm playing a larger role in this. It now all makes sense, by the way, now that Stefan is like, hey, I'm popping smoke and retiring because whatever selfish reason he gave yesterday. I'm kidding. It looks like I'm going to be playing an outsized role there, probably to the chagrin of Dennis, who hasn't been told about that change in plans. But you now know about it. If you want to rubberneck the end of a career, and I mean mine, maybe Dennis's, I don't know, you should come to 710 KNUS. Enjoy the intimate setting there. Cigar comes with the tick, so does a drink, and the carving station, and the hors d'oeuvres, and the camaraderie, and just the good stuff sitting around, chatting about this, that, and the other. I got to believe that Trump is going to come up in that conversation. Maybe just a little bit, and you should be there for it. Hey, listen, I'm going to go to the phone lines right now. VIP guy, he is one of our regulars, wicked smart dude, and he says he knows who brought down the plane carrying Alexander Prigozhin. His name is Josh Sharf. Josh, how are you doing?
Good morning, George. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Do the reveal. Who was it? Billy said you knew who did it, so I just want to cut right to the chase. Who did it?
I think it was the Indians. I think straight off their success landing on the South Pole of the moon.
It was Yevgeny. I said Alexander. Yevgeny. It could have been the Indians. By the way, they landed on the moon. What's next?
What do you mean, for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big deal, man. Not a lot of countries have landed on the moon.
No, only I think only 4. They're the fourth, and you know, other countries have tried, but that final approach, you know, the actual landing part, turns out to be pretty hard, and so they managed to do it, and they managed to do it in a spot that is considered a little more difficult because of radio contact and so forth. So it was a pretty big achievement for them. I think the purpose of the mission, isn't it, to see if there's they're there to look for water, and so that's the big that's the sort of next big thing that everyone's looking for on the moon. If you're going to establish a base there, it would be nice not to have to, it'd be nice to have water, not to have to port that up there. And sense. So that's what people are looking for. I'm personally, I think a base on the moon is useful for what it, for, say, like military purposes. But
hold on. What about
really
a launching
excited,
pad though, without the pull of the Earth's atmosphere being such a drag on your fuel?
No, I understand, and I think, but you still got to get the stuff to the moon. So what you might be able to do is, I think there have been other proposals where you could build something in Earth orbit, and then you save yourself a fair amount of gravity while doing that. But my obviously, what everyone wants to do is put a man on Mars, and that's exciting. And the idea of putting, listen, I mean,
don't we want to be first though? We don't want to seed that. I mean, already I'm hearing rumors they want to rename it Bali Moon, and I just don't think that I made that up.
The dance numbers are going to be lit.
Isn't there something to us wanting to be the first to colonize the moon, or whatever it is they're going to call that?
Well, no, I mean, I don't. I think there is usefulness to it, but in terms of exploration, I'm much more hopeful about what we can do on Mars. The moon, there's no atmosphere. It's not even clear that what they have there you could turn into soil if you wanted to grow something there. So I think there's the potential for establishing a self-sustaining permanent outpost someplace is much greater for Mars.
If we're going to explore that, though, honestly, you have to go back and get the old school 1980s marijuana distributors, because those guys could grow that thing in concrete. Do you know what I mean? Like, they figured out a way to really exploit that. You send them to the moon, I'm pretty sure that thing is green within a month. I mean, they just know how to do it. Listen, can we get to the Yevgeny Prigozhin thing? What a coincidence that his plane went down, probably a mechanical failure or something, shortly after he threatened to march on Moscow. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone's in any doubt about what's going on there. The only question, obviously Putin took out another rival and decided that, I don't know, maybe polonium is in short supply. Maybe he wasn't able to.
Have they determined that polonium was part of it?
No. I'm saying he couldn't use polonium. He didn't this time.
Yeah. That's
down.
right. That's right. I thought maybe he poisoned the pilot or something, and then it was like, oh no, who can fly the plane?
Well, this is also a Soviet tactic. Wasn't there a point during the late part of World War II, or it seems to, if memory serves, a plane carrying a fair amount of the Polish sort of Polish military or what passed for civilian government went down. I mean, it was this is not, this is. I don't know why anyone is surprised. I don't know why. There's certainly no mystery about what happened, and Putin's sending a message which is don't mess with me, and if you do, then this is what happens. Now there's a question that raises the question: who is he sending the message to? Is he aware that there may be other dissatisfied elements that might want to try something? Is this a move from strength or a move from weakness? And I suppose we'll just have to wait to find out.
The FAA isn't going to be involved in this. I mean, what are the chances they come back and definitively say, yes, it was sabotage versus, it's indeterminate. We don't know.
Oh, zero. I mean, yeah, right. Because the guy who issues the report doesn't want to be next.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess this was predicted. I mean, people kept saying it, but now that it's happened, I don't know if I'm going to go presidential here. I was going to ask you about the debates anyway, but there's this exchange. Did you watch the debates, by the way, for the GOP folks?
I did not.
Damn it, Josh.
I did not. And I also didn't watch the Trump interview, but go ahead and finish this. And then we can talk a little bit about why I didn't. So,
yeah. First off, I do want to know why you didn't, but there's an exchange. You may have seen the exchange on social media between Nikki Haley and VR. And it's an exchange over, foreign policy, which is a legit presidential issue. I mean, thank God we're at least having some discussion over some of the issues. And there's a real disagreement there. And my impression of VR's approach on Ukraine and Russia is let them have it. Let's let him have it as a way to appease Putin and buy his willingness to not engage in some sort of intimate military-based relationship with China. Because as VR says, the greatest threat to America's security right now is the Russia-China alliance. And, Nikki Haley is saying something opposite of that, which is, look, we've got to defend Ukraine. Pence said the same thing. Like, if we don't defend Ukraine now with just giving them armaments, we're going to defend our NATO allies who border them with boots on the ground. And that makes a lot of sense to me too. But in light of the fact that Putin just proved himself to be exactly what Nikki Haley said, which is he is a murderer. And then the guy said, you know what, just in case anyone's in doubt, boom, here goes Prigozhin. What impact do you think this has on any of the discussion at the presidential level of foreign policy?
Probably none. No, I'm serious. I mean, I don't think it, again, I think people who are willing to, I don't want to be too hard. There are good ways of characterizing it and less generous ways of characterizing it, but people who are willing to either, I would say, make excuses, or people who are willing to who are all too eager to see the Russians' point of view on their invasion, are not going to be affected by this. And people who, at least from my point of view, recognize Russia for what it is, and certainly recognize Putin for what he is. If we don't want to sort of characterize an entire country, but certainly its political leadership for what it is, are not surprised by it. I don't think it has any effect whatsoever.
From your vantage point, why is?
Although I did see the exchange between Haley, and I did see that clip.
Yeah.
And I do think it's well, I don't know. I wouldn't say heartening, but it's at least amusing to see people like VR take the in terms of their Ukraine policy, take a page out of the Democrats' Vietnam policy. So
yeah, well, I was going to ask you from your vantage point, and there are a lot of Republicans out there, Trump among them, that seem to signal that they want to end the war. they use, this is so funny to me when they say things like, we need to stop the unnecessary bloodshed over there. I'm like, between Ukrainians and Russians, you give a crap? I mean, if that becomes the standard, where were we in Rwanda? Do you know what I mean? So you hear these discussions as things that we just don't talk about normally. Why, from your vantage point, is VR wrong about, hey, we'll just get in there, Russia can have the Donbass region, and our relationship with Putin will be emboldened or strengthened to the point that he won't need to rely upon Xi Jinping anymore?
I can't, I don't even, I mean, that's there are so many things wrong with that approach. You don't, I mean, have we not learned that you don't make people like you by being nice to, people who don't like you, people who don't trust you, people whose worldview and the Russian, especially, and again, without, there are Westernized Russians, there are people who look West, there are people who like the West, but sort of Putin's mindset is not that. Putin's mindset is, Russia stands alone. Russia, is sort of a cultural reservoir of deep, sort of traditional values. That it's not, if I mean, the church itself there is sort of is a tool of his, of his politics, but he's willing to stand on that to get people to go along with him on this. There's and it doesn't end with Ukraine, and you can't, and in fact, it doesn't end with the Donbass. I mean, their original goal. I mean, people forget they wanted to decapitate the regime and take the whole country. It didn't work. The fight out at the airport, sort of heroically kept that from working. But this is not. He doesn't just want the Donbass, and this idea that and by the way, the bases, the naval bases in Crimea are a great place to cause all kind of mischief in the Eastern Mediterranean if it wants to. So there are geostrategic issues involved here too. This is not, you don't just make nice to somebody and say, well, okay, yeah, we'll give you half of somebody else's country, and then you promise you won't want any more. He's got, there are the boundaries, the borders that exist in that part of the world historically have been kind of fluid, and that's not an excuse for the invasion. What it is it's foreshadowing of more trouble. And I think we can't. I just don't. And so I think VR's approach is just wrongheaded.
When I want to ask about this other thing.
By the way, one other quick thing. You mentioned Trump. Many of the people who support him also, and again, I say many because this is they're we don't want to say all. Many of my friends who support him, at least in part, support him because they would not want us. They don't like the fact that we're involved in Ukraine. They would not have us involved there. And yet when he was pressed on what he would do, this a few months ago, when he was pressed on what he would do, his response was, well, I would send them even more stuff and put an end to it that way. So that was his response. His response wasn't,
but you remember he said, though, look, this thing ends 24 hours after I'm sworn in. And it's weird because the only way that happens is if he puts the fear of whoever Putin prays to in Putin, right? Like if Putin thought we would go to war, which is crazy because the words we're hearing from the other folks who want to appease Putin and think that we're going to negotiate it away and everything's going to be good is that's the path, that all of this war and the unnecessary bloodshed. One other thing I wanted to ask you about with VR's foreign policy, I talked about this earlier this week, was he has all but come out. He's got to be China's favorite candidate for president because he came out and announced in very strong terms, China, don't you dare mess with Taiwan until we have removed every semiconductor producing plant there, and then you can have it in 2028 for my second term. I mean, that's pretty much what his policy was regarding Taiwan. China's got to love this dude.
Well, I mean, I think there is value to not having a single point of failure for the technology base for your entire country. I mean, if having a target like that, but that's also Taiwan's protection, right? Because China also gets all their chips from Taiwan. So, there's an argument that if China invades Taiwan, the first thing we do, we let the Chinese know we're going to do this. The first thing we do is blow up the semiconductor factories. Say, listen, you wanted this? Okay, fine. We can replace this here. Let's see you try.
Yeah.
So that's one
interesting
approach. But I don't think you want to reduce another. Again, I think you don't want to reduce another country's freedom and liberty to your economic needs. I mean, that's not helpful.
Even if we removed every semiconductor chip from Taiwan, just its geographic location,
of course,
and China's expressed interest in wanting to extend to the 9-dash line or beyond, and it's probably beyond, even that would be enough to make it of strategic, not just interest, but almost necessity for us if we're going to protect our ingress and egress into the South and East China Seas. I mean, isn't that a part of this whole analysis too? It's not just the semiconductors.
Right. Of course. I mean, there are a million reasons that you don't just hand over Taiwan to the Chinese. There are moral reasons, there are economic reasons, and there are geostrategic reasons. I don't think one of the things that I get from Vivek, sort of his discussion of foreign policy, is that it's and with many things with him, it's sort of inchoate. And I think he might make a very competent and he might be a good Secretary of Commerce, maybe Undersecretary of Commerce in charge of technology, but he's not ready to be president. When
you hear about the debates and all that coming up, you make the decision not to watch. Why?
Well, I just I had other things I needed to do, and I don't rearrange my sock drawer. No, I mean it was there were.
But you could watch it later.
Yeah, I guess. But listen, there was a fellow named Daniel Boorstin, who some of your listeners may have heard of. He's gone now, but he was a Librarian of Congress, very esteemed historian. And back in the 60s, he wrote a book called The Image, and the primary point of The Image was how we get wrapped up in how things seem rather than what they are. And one of the key chapters in the book, he talks about something called pseudo events, things that are not real events, but sort of are made to look like real events. They're kind of made up. And his examples are things like, science by press conference, or really anything by press conference. Press conferences are not real events. Press conferences are pseudo events. They're where somebody goes and talks and answers questions about things that are actually happening, but it's not something that's important in and of itself. And these early debates with 8 guys on the stage, 7 of whom have absolutely no chance of becoming president, are the definition of pseudo events. As, by the way, as Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson. They're not important in and of themselves. And I didn't. Now the audience reaction might be important. If enough people watch them, then you say, well, does this actually give somebody a boost? And 538 had some interesting polling that among people who watched the debate, the 2 people who did the best were DeSantis and Haley, Nikki Haley.
Now, who out of that group do you think stands a chance of being president of the United States? You said 7. There were 8 up there.
No, I think I still think
Asa?
DeSantis is really the yeah. No, it's Will Hurd. I think No, I don't dislike him, but he's not going to be president.
No.
No, I still think DeSantis is the only guy up there with a chance of knocking off the Don.
Look, there's some. I don't want to overuse the word genius, but I'm just going to throw out there was some genius to how the Don handled yesterday. Now, one, historically, it's just so hard to imagine getting a mugshot of a former president who's also a candidate for president at the same time, but it happened. But this guy then took that moment, which, by the way, was planned brilliantly, right? He lets everybody else turn themselves in early so that whatever happens as a result of the debate, you get a 24-hour news cycle, and then all focus is on Trump as he turns himself in, and that's what we've seen. And then he takes the mugshot and says, I'm coming back to Twitter, basically, and then raises $1 trillion off of it. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, he needs his legal fees. I mean, he's got his campaign to this serious cash. Well, a lot of it's going to legal fees. And the mugshot, is certainly pure Trump. I will say that the guy who, he didn't win, so, you can take it for what it's worth. My favorite mugshot of a former or of a politician like that was Rick Perry's, where he some DA in what was it, Austin? I don't remember where it was.
Yeah.
Decided he was going to charge him with speeding. I mean, it was some nonsense charge, and of course the whole thing got dropped. But his mugshot was essentially just smiling at the camera, with this okay, here we are, just smiling, looking straight into the camera. And Trump, sort of does this, very aggressive, heads down a little bit, look, and okay, that's fine. But this is, again, the mugshot itself. Is this not also another pseudo event? Is this not also about an image rather than anything of substance?
Yeah, but do you? I know you say, hey, there's the reality and there's the pseudo event and all that other stuff, but man, it feels like more and more the pseudo event is the reality. Like for voters, that's what drives the outcome.
Yeah, and this was also Borson's point. Is that people by doing that, by substituting the image for the reality, we end up making poorer decisions.
Interesting. How does this thing play out, man? Have you had a chance to look or read any of these indictments? And I know I'm not asking you for a legal opinion. I'm asking you for your opinion as you look at this. How does this play out? Is there any, in your mind, is there any optimism that Trump leaves the race before the election? Or I've had people text me and say, hey, I hope, and I'm like, guy's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. He is going to be the nominee, and he is going to be on the ballot for president while these cases are going on. That is going to happen.
I don't know if he's going to be the nominee, but he's certainly not leaving the race. My fear is that he goes and tries to do a third party thing or just sabotages the Republican. He's got that kind of personality that he might very well do that.
Really? Who do you think beats this guy?
Like I say, I don't know. I mean, his campaign is going to have a real cash problem going into the winter, going into when we actually have primaries. That's going to create an operational problem for him. I mean, you need to have money to run. People say, well, he can always raise money, or he has money of his own, or he can take he can run an air campaign, which is what he did, But that's not entirely true. Two things about 2016, or actually one thing about 2016 and one thing about 2020. 2016 was a very data-driven campaign, and that takes money. People think that he was, sort of fly by the seat of his pants, go wherever. That's not true. That was a very data-driven campaign. And that's why he was able to pull, because he that's where he knew he had to get the cards for the inside straight up in the upper Midwest, and he got them. And then in 2020, because he had a money problem, he was pulling money from those same states in order to spend it elsewhere, in places that where you normally wouldn't have expected that. And that's when it was clear there was a problem. So he should have been spending money in Michigan and Wisconsin, and couldn't afford to do it. So money still matters, even in a campaign for somebody like that.
Real quickly, on the other side of the aisle, is it Biden?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think I think they're just stuck with him, and I think we're getting to the point now where it would be almost impossible to switch him out for someone else.
Just because of the timing?
Yeah, and because you can't just airdrop somebody into the middle of this.
Not a Newsom or a Michelle Obama or something like that.
Well, Michelle Obama is an interesting thought. Newsom isn't it? Newsom at least has been governor. I mean, I suppose some of this, but it's not 1912. There needs to be a network. There needs to be a base. This stuff doesn't just spring up. People. There's a reason people do these fundraising trips and do this ground campaign planning ahead of time. I don't think you can just rely on the party to do all that for you, even on the Democrat side.
That's interesting. Hey, Josh Sharf, somehow we have blown way past our time hack on this thing, because I could talk with you all day. Listen, we're going to have you back, as you know, as long as you're willing to sacrifice your credibility at the altar of 710, we're willing to provide you that altar.
Well, after the appearance with Prager, there might be an opening.
Hell, you might hear Josh Sharf 6 to 10 a.m. on 710 KNUS. And then maybe you can call me from time to time. I'll be with Stefan at a bar somewhere. That's my drink, Stefan.
All right.
Josh, thanks, man. Have a great weekend.
I'll let Bill set it up. Very good. Thanks a lot, George.
All right, amigo. Talk to you soon. Hey, that was Josh Sharf with the Independence Insitute. You can read his musings on Complete Colorado, but honestly, just Google the guy. He's a pretty prolific writer. He seems to somehow stay on top of everything. I was a little shocked that he hadn't watched the debate, not so much live. I didn't watch it live either. I couldn't. I was flying. But to watch it at all, but that was interesting. We had that conversation yesterday. Listen, I'm interested in knowing from you at 303-696-1971. This mugshot. I've had a lot of people text in, say, hey, this is horrible for America. Even the President Trump said, hey, this is horrible for America. And all. Does this actually turn out to be a positive for him? Does this become the calling card for the rest of the campaign? Hey, this is what happens when you have a government so politicized. I mean, a criminal justice system so politicized, a government so partisan in its approach to governance. This is what you get, and this is why you got to support me. Does this turn out to help him or hurt him? I'm interested, too, in hearing from some folks. Some folks I saw on social media, and you know, you got to take it with a grain of salt, who said, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm a so-and-so from the stage guy. But after this, I would support Trump just to put my finger in the eye of the left, because I think this is more about getting back control of the government than it is about who it is that gets control of the government. What do you think? 303-696-1971. Is this a win for President Trump? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcbjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, the number 303-696-1971. Here's a text. I thought this was interesting because we've been talking about this off air. Someone texted in, well, according to several agencies, 154 million people watched the Tucker Trump interview, and that number is increasing daily. It's even more than they realized. I said, what agencies? And the response was The Hill, Gateway, Punt. I think they mean Pundit. I even saw it, I think, on MSNBC. None of those are agencies. My guess is what you mean is Twitter or X said this is how many views we've had. And that's just being reported as something that Twitter said. I don't think it's been verified. In fact, I have no idea how Twitter measures a view. We know that the debate on Fox garnered more eyeballs than the same debate, I think, back in 2016. So that's interesting. I think that's meaningful. But I just don't know how Twitter measures their views.
Exactly.
I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah,
I don't
do.
know.
Yes, we do.
No, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, we know exactly how they measure their views. Twitter. Now, remember, if we jump, before Elon Musk took over, Twitter used to have a feature where you could see exactly how many people watched the video, from front to back. And there was some other analysis in there and some analytics that you could get. Currently, Twitter counts it as a view if the video plays for 2 seconds on your feed. That's it. And only 50% of the video that is playing has to be visible on your screen. That's all that has to happen, and that's counted as a single view. So you could have whatever it is, latest in a challenge or someone ranting about whatever it is, and it could be only visible on half of your screen, and you could be reading something below that. You will be counted as a viewer as long as the video played for 2 seconds.
Now, listen,
that's how they
is
do
that
it.
the automatically firing videos that you get?
Anything,
because there are
runs.
things that run on my Twitter feed that I have no interest in, even though it thinks I do. And there's videos playing all the time, but I don't click on them. Will it count that as a view?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Does it discount multiple views by the same person?
Nope. Not at all. Because again, this is Musk, in my opinion, is playing a game. He's trying to boost scores. And so he's going to count it as impressions. Remember, in the digital world, it's not about communicating the message. It's about the result of impressions. How many times have a set of eyeballs seen this image? That's how it's measured. Even if it is the same number of eyeballs routinely, that's okay. In fact, many times that is more valuable to an advertiser, saying someone has come back and viewed this content multiple times. So he's selling it. He's going to try to sell it based on pure numbers. And that's how this game is going to be played for him. It's not going to work very well. And we've seen that based on his advertising.
The part that gets me is dude only garnered just under 80 million votes in a presidential race that was focused almost entirely on him, both pro and con. And yet somehow on this random day in the middle of the week, guy gives an exclusive to Tucker hosted on some limited platform, not even the number one social media platform out there by a ton. I mean, it's like
they're 6.
Number 6.
Yep, they're number 6.
And it's a fraction of what like Facebook and others have and all that. But on that, oh my God, we've doubled it up, maybe tripled it up, more than 200. It's like, are you kidding? I just common sense would dictate that doesn't happen. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not telling you it couldn't happen. I'm saying I just don't believe it. Do I believe it could have gotten more views than the debate? 100% it could. I mean, it's Donald Trump. Dude's super popular with a lot of people. I get it. And even those that aren't big fans of his probably tuned in to watch it sometime. But 200 million views? I mean, who's watching? Is it international? Are people outside the country tuning into X so that they can watch Tucker Carlson and Trump talk? I don't know. It seems crazy, but it also feels to me like the same ridiculous, irrelevant statistic that the president pushed for his inauguration. Biggest crowd in the history of the planet Earth for my inauguration. Who cares? Like, why is that even an issue? It just feels so ego driven. And so this feels like, hey, everybody, 100 jillion people watched the Tucker Trump thing and only 13 million, verifiable, by the way, 13 million watched the Fox News thing. What is that supposed to tell me? I mean, if you're going to tell me Trump's more popular than all those candidates on the stage, Agreed. I mean, I just don't understand the fascination with trying to, I think there is a real insecurity here with folks that are Kool-Aid drinkers for Donald Trump. And that is, everybody agrees with me. Everybody thinks like I do. And the proof of that is in something like these 200 jillion views on Twitter. And oh, by the way, if my guy loses the election, it must have been stolen because everybody agrees with me. And I think that this guy's the best. There's something weird. I've never encountered this before in my political life. There's just something weird about it. And maybe this is that perception reality thing that Josh was talking about at the top of the hour, this absolute reluctance to accept a single negative thing about it. I've never seen anything like it except Jesus. That's it. You can't talk smack about Jesus. If you talk smack about Jesus, bad things happen. It's the same way. There's no other person in history that escapes scrutiny the way this guy does. Teflon Don, man, he's genius for what he's done. I don't know how he's done it. You got to give him credit. He's not an idiot. Guy's wicked smart. But this idea that, hey, he got 200 million views for that interview, I simply don't believe it. Until Twitter comes out with the raw data and we know more and it's verifiable, I come on. I mean, more than Fox, agreed. A lot more than Fox, sure, I'll buy that. But 2.5 times the number of people that voted for him for president? No, I don't think so. But what do I know? 303-696-1971 is the number. Let's cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to get made smart by the smarty smarts out at Alpine Planning. If it's Friday, it must be BG. You're listening to the George Brauchler Show at 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Welcome back to the George Show, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show and that time of the week where GB goes to BG. Right here, getting made smarter by the folks at Alpine Planning. Brian Gray, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I think we ought to go on that cruise.
Why not, man? You know what? Why don't we have you know how other, like the national talk show guys are like, join me as I sail the world with my listeners. Why can't we? I'm just planting the seed, Brian. Why can't we have the Alpine Planning, Brian Gray et al., and that includes, of course, Gabe and Amy, and George and Billy, like cruise? You know, people would flock to that thing.
Hey, sounds good to me. The radio show from the Caribbean.
Yeah, well, we can't sail to Hawaii right now. There's stuff going on over there, but we could do the Caribbean. We could do maybe something in the warmer months on the Rhine or the Rhone, you know, the Danube, something.
You got my mind thinking now.
There we go. I'll have Brian call you.
All right, let's take a look at these numbers this morning. Everything's looking green across the board here.
Great.
We got the Dow up 146. NASDAQ's up about 85, and the S&P's up 21 points. You know, the past 2 weeks, we've had a pretty good sell-off in the markets. Hopefully people have just been kind of ignoring that, still staying with their regular investment program. But a lot of things going on out there. You take a look at mortgage rates. We talked about this last Friday.
Yeah. You
know, they're at their highest levels in almost 20 years. You take a look at home affordability. With rates being over 7%, it's going to be pretty hard for first-time home buyers just to get into, let's call it a starter house or what have you. And then you got everything going on in Jackson Hole this week. All the Fed chairs are up there. It's going to be interesting to listen to Jerome Powell's speech today, see what he has to say.
What do you guess? What are you guessing?
I think they're going to raise it again. I really do. I mean, they've raised rates 11 times in the past 18 months, and you know they got to get this inflation stuff under control. So I anticipate another probably a quarter point raise. We're at the highest rate in 22 years, so they got to do something because now we got gas prices that are starting to ease up again. It's back up close to $4 a gallon.
I paid $4 something yesterday.
Yep. I was right at $4 a gallon myself. And, you know, George, it's kind of like we're on that hamster wheel right now. And we can't get off. And some things need to change here. And as we keep going forward, this is where you just want to sit down with your advisor, make sure everything's still in order, make sure everything is acting the way it should be. And if it's not, make some changes. But what you don't want to do is go to the sidelines right now. You got to stay in this market. Hardest thing to do is get back into the market once you go to the sidelines. So anybody has any questions, give us a call over at Alpine Planning Group. We'd love to sit down with you and see if we can be of any assistance.
Brian, can I run a scenario by you? And I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but you know, like NVIDIA has been just blowing up, right? Like they are just on a tear this year. How frequently do you hear people either come to you or you hear other folks saying, oh man, I got to jump on that train. I got to dump a bunch of money on NVIDIA. What do you tell folks that are trying to find that hot stock to make their money?
One thing we tell them is not to chase return. That's the big thing. If you chase return, chances are you're going to lose. But if you take a look, you know, in NVIDIA's case, if you take a look, if it's got some room to grow, if the capacity's there and the trading levels are there, if it's a lot of trading, then maybe you jump on it a little bit. But if you're going to start playing in the stock market, you got to have an entry point and you got to have an exit point. Exit being the key thing. Once you hit that percentage or that rate of return, it's time to get out. And that's the biggest thing we see with people is greed comes into play and they want to try to get that extra 1 or 2%. And sure enough, when you stay in the market, it goes negative. So just have a plan to get in and out and you'll be fine.
With that plan, are you seeing more folks coming to you saying, hey, I'm not looking to just full on retire at this particular point, but I'm looking to, are people working longer? Are people taking less out of their, what are you seeing out there?
We're seeing all of the above. The biggest thing that we're seeing, why people are working longer, is healthcare.
Oh, good point.
The way that their retirement plans have been hit the past 18 months, if they're down 10, 12, 14%, whatever the number is, you're taking a look at about $1,000 a month in healthcare just to bridge yourself to Medicare. So, if anything, the biggest thing we're seeing right now is people hanging on just for that healthcare till they can get Medicare eligibility.
Man, that's important stuff right there too. I hadn't given that any thought, but it's coming for me, Brian. And that is right now I get the benefit of, I'm still in uniform. So I have the benefit of TRICARE, which is a fantastic insurance, but I'm not going to have that when I'm forcibly retired here in May of 2025. It changes into something else that's far less favorable. I want to just keep serving, but now that you make me think about that, I don't know, man. I haven't had to focus on the healthcare thing in 30 years. And now I'm like,
it's
dang,
big.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And the biggest thing we see is when you have a pretty good age difference between the spouses.
Oh, good point.
Because one spouse might be able to get on Medicare, but then it's another 7 to 10 years before the other spouse can. So that's where all the planning comes in. That's where I think we're a very integral part. So
that's exactly why Billy did not marry someone 20 years his junior. That and the law. Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, as always, it's a matter of trust. They're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Brian, have a great week, man. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Hey, you too, George. Have a good one.
You too, sir.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Brian, no idea if you're listening. Text coming in saying they would take the cruise. Billy, this may be the best Alpine Planning call, and they're all good. This may be the best of the good ones because we may be setting up a cruise here. Folks, would you take it? You can text. And when we come back, I want to talk to you about something that some of the folks talked about with drugs, the military, you and me. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. If you watched that debate, you heard that debate, of course, on Fox News, not yesterday, but the day before, with 8 candidates vying for the GOP nomination. You heard Ron DeSantis say something that is a growing refrain in the ranks of Republicans. Lindsey Graham has talked about it. Asa Hutchinson touched upon it. There are, I think, some things being contemplated or maybe even filed with Congress to move forward. Trump has an ad about it, according to Billy. Do we have that ad, man? Are there words that can be spoken? Yeah, but let's play the Ron DeSantis clip for right now. Yeah, that's interesting. Listen, I can't overemphasize how fentanyl has changed the landscape of drug use in America to make it far more lethal than it's ever been, just because of how potent it is. He's right. The potency is incredible. Of course, as you know, our own legislature has struggled to find a way to criminalize the possession of this lethal poison because, lo and behold, the people who are stealing cars and breaking into stuff sometimes also deal drugs, and they're just doing it to feed their kids or to be warm or something like that. But the bigger question here is, do you support the use of the military not to defend the border? That's not what they're talking about here, but to invade Mexico for the purposes of eliminating these drug cartels. It's an interesting question, and he says he would do it on day one. This is Ron DeSantis. Now, I think Lindsey Graham has come out very strong and said he would go in there and blow them up and do all, like, I want to blow them up. Trump has ads on this. I think it's a great soundbite. I think that the sentiment is right, which is, how do we stop the flow of drugs into our country? But this also feels like a resignation of the fact that we don't ever think we're going to get control of our border. And because we don't think we're going to get control of our border, we're now going to send military troops into a foreign country, an ally, Mexico. I'm concerned. Not about the idea that we shouldn't take what's happening seriously and treat these drug cartels as enemies. It's not that part of it. It's that, what role does Mexico play in this? Do we coordinate with them? Do we ask their permission? Or is this such a dire threat to Americans that we send special forces in to go kill people? I asked Billy about this off the air. I think this is the premise, in part, not the fentanyl piece, but everything else, of Tom Clancy's Clear and Present Danger. And this was a super secret military operation that ultimately, Jack Ryan ferrets out and determines what this is. But these guys get sent down there for the purposes of destroying drug trafficking into America. I do think that is a threat to American lives, but it's not a threat to you and me. Unless you're an illicit drug user, you and I face no risk from fentanyl. That's not to diminish the loss of life from it or to say it's not something that needs to be tackled. But if they started lacing crack cocaine with rat poison, that doesn't increase my risk of death at all. The people that are taking these things, and what Ron DeSantis is talking about is, dude took a Percocet and died from a fentanyl overdose. Horrific. I can't imagine I don't ever want to be in a position to look into that abyss. But the part that's unspoken there is, dude's taking a street purchased or counterfeit Percocet. Why? I mean, our bigger issue for America is we have a very permissive drug culture here in America. That's our problem. Fentanyl isn't like it's not like there isn't a market for fentanyl. There is. It's called America. We have the market for it. So do I want to tackle it? Absolutely. You push drugs into our country. Do I want to see you grabbed up and prosecuted and sent to prison for as long as possible? 100%. But we're going to send armed soldiers into a foreign country to take out these fentanyl dealers? I mean, honestly, listen, you want to play the logic out. Don't we then have to say, where's the fentanyl coming from? Oh, it's coming from China to be put in these pill presses? We should go send troops into China to eliminate those folks that are making the fentanyl. Is that as far as we go, or is it just Mexico's an easy choice for us? I don't know. I want to use the military to defend the United States, but when you expand defense of the United States to cover drug dealers from another country, where does it end? Then what? Or is it just the countries that border us that pose the problem? 303-696-1971. Do you support the use of the military to invade Mexico, or any country for that matter, to eliminate the drugs that are being poured across our very porous open border in the South? Do you agree with that? 303-696-1971. Go into the phone lines right now. His name is Michael Allen. He is the super district attorney from El Paso County. Michael, what are your thoughts, man? And by the way, folks don't know this about you. You are a military veteran yourself. You served in the Navy. You have a son who's serving in the Navy. I don't understand why you can't get anybody into the Army, but I still applaud you for your service. I pressed the button. Michael Allen. Michael Allen, you're there. Hey. I just got done crap talking the Navy, and I'm so sorry.
I know, and you didn't give me a chance to say anything. I was just saying that we have higher standards in this household. Can't get into the Army. We just choose not to.
Oh, good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, the one thing that you were talking about with the fentanyl thing, you're right that generally speaking, you and I and people like us don't have to worry about fentanyl. But I think the one worry that I have, and I've seen it down here in the 4th Judicial, is that kids who are in that experimental phase have been victimized by it, and that can impact just regular families like yours and mine, right? A friend passes them a pill, says it's okay, and the next thing you know, they're laying at their desk, foaming at the mouth, dying. So that is a concern that I think people should be aware of.
That's the part that gets me, that I can't, like, the idea of hearing about your son or your daughter who, they're not regular drug users. You know what I mean? They're not, whatever we would normally associate with that, doing exactly what you said. And that is, they're at a party, they're out, at a friend's house or something. And it seems just like this innocuous experimentation thing that turns into the equivalent of putting a gun in your mouth, but they don't know it.
Right.
That part,
exactly.
I don't know. But as a military veteran, man, because you've been there, what are your thoughts about this notion of ginning up the special forces to go down there into Mexico to eliminate these fentanyl pill pressers?
Yeah, that seems to me like a slippery slope, doesn't it? That's actually invading some other country's sovereign territory. That to me seems like an area that we don't want to get into. What we really need to do is just worry about closing that border down and stopping the flow.
I agree, man. It feels like so many of our problems with the southern border too show up here on the streets of Colorado. Like, this is not Texas bears an incredible brunt, because I get that. But nothing that happens at that southern border stops at that southern border or within 100 miles of it. It just continues to push its way up. And then you're confronting it because many of the things that happen here started down south. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is. Oh, can I ask you this? I meant to ask you this now that you called. Yeah. There was a time, and you probably remember this way back when we were young prosecutors, where it was routine when someone's being sentenced for a violent crime or some other felony, that there would be some exchange of information with the court about, and by the way, this person is here illegally, or this person is do you know what I'm talking about? And then all of a sudden, we don't talk about it anymore. Like it just went away.
Yeah, it's totally gone away. It's not routinely considered anymore in bond arguments. It's not something that's considered in sentencing. In fact, the decriminalization, the misdemeanor rewrite that happened a couple of years ago, specifically was designed to get around that exact issue when they lowered the max penalty from up to 2 years on a class 1 misdemeanor down to 364 days. And that's a magic number. It means that if somebody's in jail for less than a year, they will not be deported.
Do you guys even get information anymore about folks who are here who are, I don't know, undocumented is, I guess, the gentle word, but here illegally?
Generally speaking, not. You have to really push to get that information on a case these days.
Whereas
it used to be very routine, like you said.
You had a superstar sheriff down there endorse you for your re-election run, because I was there and watched it happen. Sheriff Mikesell out of Teller County. And that's a guy that continues to say, listen, I'm going to do my part to fight this thing. If the ICE folks need a place to keep these bad guys while they're processing them, you can come to Teller County and we'll house them. I don't get why that isn't something that is copied everywhere else.
Well, it's not copied everywhere else because of the threat of litigation from the ACLU. The difference is that Sheriff Mikesell has been very deliberate in the way that he's done that, and has been able to be successful in litigation against the ACLU's lawsuits that they filed against him. So one, he's just being more courageous in that aspect, and then is following through with putting together good cases that withstand any civil litigation.
It sounds like we couldn't even ask you, and then probably because we can't ask you, we can't ask Polis's Department of Corrections, like what percentage of inmates or what even percentage of violent crime or drug crime is committed by folks who aren't supposed to be here?
Yeah, that's not a number that you can easily get to anymore. Where it used to be, you could get to that information fairly easily. But these days, because it's not being collected the same way, there's just no way to really have a firm grasp on what that number might look like.
When you talk with the drug guys that do all that special work down there, including the feds, I know you guys work with the DEA too. Do they tell you where this fentanyl's coming from?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's coming from China, and then it's filtering into Mexico where it's pressed into pills and then ferried across the border by, drug cartels.
Man, I don't know what the answer is here too, because we seem to have watered down our criminal justice response to fentanyl as well. I know you were one of the voices up there saying, hey, look, any amount is lethal. Let's criminalize any amount at a pretty significant level. And the legislature, you remember a couple years ago, was like, no. We know what we're doing. We're going to go with 4 grams or something, whatever it was that was enough to kill 2,000 people. And then they're like, okay, reluctantly, we'll go down to 1 gram, but... And then they built in all these other special escape routes for people to avoid prison who are peddling fentanyl.
Yeah, that's right. So what they built in was essentially if there's decent evidence from the defense perspective that they could show they didn't know it was fentanyl, that automatically pushes it back down to a misdemeanor again. They also built in an escape hatch for dealers who kill people. If they stay on scene and they give information to first responders, they're immune from prosecution for causing that death. That to me is crazy.
So this is a perfect way to segue back to this. This is what concerns me, is we have these super lefty legislatures around the country creating an environment that makes it very difficult for local law enforcement to hold accountable fentanyl dealers, which means it's much more inviting for fentanyl peddlers, right, to come up here and peddle their product. And then we turn around and say, our answer must be, we're going to send special forces into Mexico to go after the fentanyl dealers. I would much rather us do exactly what you said, Michael, and that is to focus on the border, and then let's look inward. Let's stop treating like drug dealing and drug use and all this stuff like it's just some choice that we have to manage. I mean, it's not. It's a crime. It's lethal, and we should do something about it.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. We do have a very permissive drug culture in the United States, generally speaking, but even more so here in the state of Colorado. It's like it's on steroids, right? We've legalized psilocybin, hallucinogenic drugs. We've legalized marijuana, going back to the constitutional amendment, and then decriminalizing possession, basically anything 4 grams or less of some very dangerous drugs, methamphetamine, like you said, fentanyl, cocaine, things that are actually killing people we've said, you know what, it's not that big of a deal for you to have it. Go ahead and try it.
By the way, this is a spontaneous call. You and I didn't coordinate this ahead of time like we do a bunch, which I love. So while we're here, something else, and Billy put this in my ear, is that one of the responses to these overdose deaths from the left is going to be, well, listen, why they're going to take the pills anyway. Why don't we create a place where they can go take the drugs and know that the risk of them overdosing and dying is de minimis? Let's call it a government observation injection site or whatever they're going to call it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's based on an idea that comes out of Portugal. We've tried it in the United States and other places, particularly in Oregon. In Portugal now has realized that they've made a huge mistake. They're actually not getting people into treatment. Drug overdoses are shooting through the roof, and people are just not getting access to the treatment that was promised when they decriminalized that. And they're seeing the exact same problem in Portland, where drug use is skyrocketing. More and more people are becoming addicted to these dangerous drugs, and they're not then being connected in an efficient way to any treatment dollars. And it's proving to be totally ineffective to deal with the drug trade.
I think that, and some of the folks here are texting in like, hey, we've done this before. We did this in Colombia, and haven't we done this in other countries? We ought to bomb the crap out of them and all that. I do think there's been some military intervention at some level down there.
Sure.
I'm just concerned about the fact that it feels like what we're saying is, well, yep, we're a huge market for it. We can't protect our southern border, so our response is to flex our military might and send these people who are trained to fight the bad guys down to fight the drug dealers. Not that the drug dealers aren't bad guys. It seems like such a fundamentally aggressive step internationally to take. And is it just because it's Mexico? Like, would we do this to Canada? Are we going to do it to China? I don't know.
Right.
I'm asking you questions that you're like, I didn't call in for this, George. I get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The thing is, when we talk about what happened down in Colombia with the drug war against cocaine and whatnot, I think what has to be remembered there too, at least to the best of my knowledge and memory, is that there were agreements between the Colombian government and our government to be in operations down there. It wasn't like these things were happening completely covertly, although they were covert to a degree. And so what we're talking about here is sending military units into Mexico. And it sounded to me like when DeSantis is saying he's going to do it on day one, there's no way for him to have an intergovernmental agreement in place by that particular point. So this would be very covert and not recognizing the sovereignty of Mexico.
That's a great point. We have to have that partnership with them long term. And I don't know how corrupt the Mexican government is or isn't, but I just don't think we can flex that muscle with that. I would much rather see us train their folks who can be trusted to go down there and take care of their own business, and maybe we can support them in other ways. But just the idea that we're going to load up a C-141 or something and start dropping dudes in, or I don't know, and it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. And I know you would agree with me on this, though, is that whatever lawful means we have to combat the drug trade, we ought to be using them.
Do it.
And if there's a way to do it in an intergovernmental agreement way with Mexico, then I think that's a different discussion. And it just requires a lot of nuanced thought and some really well-laid plans to get to that point, as opposed to on day one, we're going to go down there and do this thing.
And in no way am I saying that I don't think that those poison pushers shouldn't be subject to some sort of violence. I'm not saying that at all. Right. It's just who does it, when, and where. Kind of big deals. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if we were sending something south of the border and Mexico put its military on American soil, there'd be a problem, right? Like, I mean, this would be, remember the Alamo time, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do know, George, is that if that does happen, you know that they're going to have to send Navy folks down there, because the Army I'm not sure they can get it done.
I don't know if you know this, not a lot of giant waterways within Mexico. It's a land. It's a land kind of a country thing. It's not like Minnesota, land of lakes. You're going to need the Army to hold ground. We will rely upon you for a lot of things, like going down the Baja and stuff like that.
Mere technicality. We'll figure that part out.
Yeah, I said this too at your announcement, but I'm like, it says something about Michael Allen, how unique and special he is, that this is a guy who was a Navy dude who has figured out a way to be elected DA in a landlocked area that has the Air Force and the Army there. No Navy that I know of anywhere, unless it's a joint service thing, anywhere near Colorado Springs, and somehow a Navy guy shows up and becomes the DA. I don't know how you did it. It's probably a cult thing, but congratulations.
Yeah, we have a couple of ponds down here, just to remind you.
Michael Allen, District Attorney for the 4th, man. I should just, since you just called up out of the blue and I didn't prep this at all, how can folks find out more about what you're doing and how to support you?
Well, appreciate that. That's not really why I called in.
I know, but you're here. Here.
Yeah, exactly. You can check out my webpage, michaelallen4da.com. Learn about different events that are happening. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, all the normal social media outlets. And just get engaged and help me get across the line next November.
Tinder and Grindr too is what I've heard. Is that true?
Absolutely not. No, that's more your speed, I think, George.
I think you're thinking of Billy and his snake. Michael Allen, Super DA for the 4th Judicial District, man. I'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, George.
Bye. Man, take care. Hey, spontaneous interview. Well, first off, I love that. I love that that folks are listening to the show who have an expertise in this and they're willing to share it with us. I got to know your opinion, though. You don't have to agree with me. You certainly don't have to agree with any of the callers, including Michael Allen. But should we be using the military to end the fentanyl drug trade pouring up over the southern border? What does that look like? Does that make sense to you? 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5510.
there is something happening here. You need to be a part of this thing at 303-696-1971. Talking about Ron DeSantis. He's not alone. Pledge on day one, which I'm not sure how that works, but day one, sending special forces into Mexico to eliminate the fentanyl pill pressers. I appreciate the focus and the intensity, and I don't disagree with any of it, especially as they come across the border. I just don't know if using the military in that maybe he's talking about with consent of Mexico, but some of this thing feels like we're using war terminology because they're invading the country and they're killing our people. And it's like, yes, those are facts. Those things are true. Do they equate to military action without the consent of Mexico or even the consent of Mexico? If it's true that Mexicans, these drug cartel folks, are responsible for pushing the fentanyl into pills and putting up here, don't we then have to consider going right to the source? All of our DEA dudes, and we've had some of them on the radio here, have said, yeah, the fentanyl starts in China. It's made in China, gets trucked to. If that's the case, and China's a near peer competitor, my God, Mexico isn't, right? Aren't we then obligated to look at using military force inside China? And do we have to get their consent? By the way, what if Mexico says, no, we're not going to work with you in it? Yeah, we think it's a problem. That's our business, not yours. Stay on your side of the border. Then what? Do we go, well, we're America, damn it. This is what we do.
And George, despite what DeSantis says, he is not the first one, allegedly, to have had this idea. I found an interview from 60 Minutes, and this is Mark Esper, and this is the story that he tells.
Oh, first off, former Secretary of the Army, and then he became, I think, Department of Defense guy, right?
Yep, Department of DOD guy. And this is a conversation he said he had during the previous administration.
It'd be an act of war.
Will dispute it. And then I was having dinner after the election in 2020 with a fellow cabinet member. And he said to me, he goes, remember that time when President Trump suggested you shoot missiles into Mexico? And I said to him, you heard that? He goes, oh yeah, I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe how well you managed and talked him down from that. And at that moment, I knew I got to write the story because I at least have one witness who will verify that this really did happen.
It's on brand. And I don't mean the extra constitutional act of war stuff. I mean, what's on brand for President Trump is that he is a problem solver. And so whatever problem you confront him with, he believes he possesses the ability to solve it through quick decision-making and in general force. And so, for instance, do you remember when there was, I cannot remember the mass shooting that happened, but even Donald Trump came out and said, I support red flag laws. I support laws that keep the crazy guys from getting the guns. Why don't we have more of that? It was only after he blurted that up, because he's a problem solver, right? Like he's solving a problem, that all of a sudden, I think the NRA and some other groups pulled him aside and they're like, hey, that's not our bag, man. We're not into just taking guns away from people on de minimis due process, if any, on this thing. But his gut reaction tends to fall right out of his mouth. And it's because he's a problem solver. But this thing has ended up becoming this narrative that is being pitched by Ron DeSantis, by, what was his name? I just said it. Lindsey Graham and others. They're out there touting this. And unless there's something more to this, like, hey, I would coordinate with Mexico, I'd get their permission for us to act. I mean, I think it was authorization for the use of force. That's what Lindsey Graham was seeking. There's actually something in Congress right now. I'm going to have to spend some time to try to find this thing. But this is very, very interesting to me that we're now at another place where a hallmark of past Republican principles here, and that would be the idea that territorial autonomy matters, not just ours, but other countries, and that we would honor that maybe that's now negotiable because we're just interested in immediately and quickly solving with force whatever our next problem is. 303-696-1971. Here's one. Text, absolutely bomb the crap out of Mexico. Just watch for civilian damage. I said, really? And they said, yeah, just saying what most of your listeners want to hear. I don't think that, well, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think most of the listeners out there in 710 are like, yeah, let's just bomb Mexico until they figure out a way to stop the bad stuff that we're drawing into our country. Here's one. Didn't we do that in Colombia? Does Pablo Escobar ring a bell? We've done this a lot. I don't think we've done it without the cooperation of the host country and not on the scale I think that's being proposed here. Not necessarily. I'd rather use the military to be a makeshift border wall and if needed, shoot to kill. Yeah, I guess Red Rover is what Billy's saying. I'm not even sure that the military, like the active duty military, is a long-term solution to the border. And the idea of shoot to kill, are we going to shoot a family that's coming across the Rio Grande? One, I don't want to see them here if they're not going through the legal process. Let's be clear. I'm not an apologist for them. I'm not making excuses for them. I don't believe any of that stuff. But we're going to shoot them? You're going to shoot a mom and her kids coming across the Rio Grande if they don't come across? And there's some of you out there going to be like, hell yeah, that's an invasion. Is it? Is it an invasion? Unarmed people coming here for who cares what the reason is? I am also not a guy who's sold on the idea that, well, they just want to work. I don't care. You're not here legally. Don't come in. But they just want a better life for their kids. I don't care. I don't care. That's not how borders work. Your intentions don't dictate the other country's border. So don't hear me saying anything else, but shoot them? We're going to use the military to kill people coming across the Rio Grande? Come on, is that America? Grab them up, deport them, incarcerate them if they commit all those things, absolutely. But we're going to shoot and kill Mexican families coming across the border. The bad guys, sure, but what? 303-696-1971 is the number. Gary from Denver, you're on 710. Gary, what do you think?
Oh, I agree with you, George. You know, it's just not what America does, is invading, you know, the sovereign space of another country like Mexico. That's just silliness. I think it was just DeSantis just trying to show that he's a tough guy, and he's not a tough guy.
You don't think he's tough? I mean, he's been pretty tough down in Florida.
I mean, tough in the form of using violence to get what he needs to have done.
You know, he's a veteran. I don't know how many other veterans are up on that stage. Certainly not Vivek and not Trump, not Tim Scott, not Pence. I'm going through the list in my head. Go ahead. What was his,
frankly, I don't put a lot of value when someone says they served. I mean,
he deployed. He was a Navy JAG who had deployed. I think into Iraq. I don't think it was Afghanistan. And I don't know what unit he served with. In fact, a buddy of mine who just retired as an 06 out of the Navy had actually taught him at the Naval Justice School out there in Newport, Rhode Island. So that's legit. I mean, that's legit service, even though, and I know Michael Allen's still listening, even though it's the Navy, you know, it's still legit.
I just don't understand the connection between, because someone served in whatever capacity in the armed forces, that makes them a good politician. I just don't make that connection at all.
I'm not sure it makes him a good politician, but it does make him a pretty damn good American, right? Like, you've got somebody who stuck their hand up in the air in an era where you're not obligated to do it. There's no draft. And you've said, I am willing to tie my future and everything I have and everything I may ever have to the best interests of the United States, as dictated to me, by the way, by people over whom I don't have any control, right? I mean, that's kind of a big deal. You want someone who has pledged the kind of loyalty to America that says, You can send me to war and I'll go. That's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Well, I think some people join because they need a job too. And that's a different motivation.
They might, but they're still making that same oath, man, especially in the last 20 plus years. I mean, you can't join the military and not think to yourself, they're going to grab me up and send me overseas. I just don't know when or where or how, and I don't know what I'll be called upon to do. I think that's a big deal. And for a guy running for president, I think him understanding how the decisions get made and the ramifications for people down that rank chain, I think those things matter. I'm not saying that you can't be a good president without serving, but I do think it matters when you have someone who's a veteran running for public office. It's not dispositive of all the other things, Gary, but I do think it matters because you've done something and put your future at risk in a way that others don't.
Yeah. On another topic, do you remember how Trump said that he could stop the the Ukraine war in 24 hours?
Right.
I always wondered, how would he do that? And he was asked and he answered that question.
What did he say?
I only heard it once, and I think it was Hannity was interviewing him about a year ago, and he said he would get the two parties in the room and he would say to one, end the war and we'll give you everything you need. And to the other one, he would say, end the war or you won't get anything that you need.
Well, did he identify which party was going to get everything and not get everything?
The way I interpreted that is he would say to Putin, end the war and you'll get everything you need, which is basically he wants what, Crimea, whatever.
He already has Crimea.
Okay, and he'll get more land, I suppose. That's what I thought he was saying. That's what he would say to Russia, to Putin, and to Zelensky. He would say, if you don't end the war, you won't get anything you need, which is our support.
It just sounds so stupid. I mean, honestly, look, Trump's way smarter than I am. He's a genius. I'm just me, but it just sounds so stupid. How could you trust Russia, Putin in particular, but Russia, to stop moving forward there or anywhere else long-term with that kind of a strategy? Where in history has that worked?
I agree. It was stupid, but Trump is stupid.
I don't think he's a stupid guy. I think he's smart. I mean, look, Gary, that what he did with the mugshot thing, I don't know, man. He's really good at the judo, really good at the counterpunching. I don't think he's stupid, but that foreign policy pitch is bonkers.
Well, that's what he said, and I remember. I'll never forget that because that was the only time he explained that statement.
Gary, man, hey, have a great weekend. Thanks for the phone call. 303-696-1971. Gary's line is open. I'm going to get to Jack from Golden and everybody else when we come back, and Jim from Denver in just a little bit here. All I have to do before we cut away for a quick break, and we got a whole nother hour of this, man. I got some stuff I want to talk to you about with this, and your opinion matters to me more than my own. So why don't you express it there? 303-696-1971. I'll do the text too. Hey, Dan Caplis, super lawyer. This is a guy that's all credibility all the time. And you talk about Trump saying he was 6'3", 215, and I'm going to call BS on that. I'm going to throw the yellow flag. No chance. I don't know if he's 6'3". No chance he's 215 at any height. It may be one day, but not today, not yesterday either. But Dan Caplis, that guy bothers me because he's like 6'4" and the same weight I think he probably was when he went to the University of Colorado on an Evans scholarship, earning his way through college. I don't know how he does it, but I presume it has a lot to do with the fact that he has this indefatigable energy when he approaches this career field of helping victims. And it could be you, it could be someone you love, but this guy doesn't stop. He's like the old proverbial Energizer bunny. He just doesn't ever end. He just pushes and pushes and pushes. And I worked with this guy 16, 17 years ago. And I'll tell you, I don't remember a single day where he was off. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody has that day where you come in and you're down and you're dragging. I've never seen Dan down or dragging. Maybe it's drugs. I should ask him off the air, of course. But it's something. This guy just has a passion to do good by people that just drives him on. And he's relentless in that pursuit. In fact, you control when the case ends as much as anything else. Like he'll keep coming back to you with the offers as they improve, but you make it end. If you're like, nope, you guys will end up in court and he'll end up throwing down with the other side. And they don't want that. They don't want that. Give him a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out and Bobber at dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan Caplis, Caplis law.com. When we come back, Jack, Jim, the other calls lighting up too. You can join them, 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, going right to the phone lines. Jack from Golden, you're on 710. What do you think?
Oh man, thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
This has to do, and I'm nervous, this has to do with all the discussions about we can't go down and get the drug dealers. And you're ex-military, and I know you'll know all these 4 things that I'll list here, and that is the Barbary Coast. We got tired of the pirates. We went over to the North Africa and took them out. That was okay. 9/11, well, it was okay to go into Pakistan and get Osama bin Laden. We didn't like Al Qaeda. We went into Afghanistan for 20 years. How is that any different than, and there's only like 2,000, 3,000 lives for 9/11. Even Pearl Harbor was only 3,100 or something like that. And I don't know about the Barbary Coast pirates. We sent the Marines over there, but we're talking about 100,000 deaths a year. And that doesn't count the rapes, murders, and sex trafficking of migrants. And we can't do the same thing that we did for Afghanistan, Osama bin Laden, and Barbary Coast. Please try and explain it to all us why that's different.
Well, I think the Barbary Coast one is interesting because that was actually pretty controversial as well. It wasn't like Jefferson just sent folks over there to do it and everyone went, yay, and there was no controversy. There was controversy associated with that. In terms of the attack on 9/11, we're talking about the violent application of force by whether it was state-sponsored or not. It was a paramilitary or terrorist organization. That's different than this. This isn't the application of violence. This is actually something we have by our own conduct permitted. I'm not telling you it makes it right, but we allow our border to be porous. We don't prosecute or punish drug dealers, fentanyl dealers, even when they kill people. And then when the fentanyl keeps flowing in, we say, well, we can't do anything to stop it ourselves here in our own country, so we're going to invade another country and destroy them. And if that's true, and I love the call, Jack, I really do. No reason to be nervous. You've made great points. Don't we then have to invade China and stop them from sending the fentanyl over to Mexico?
I understand all those points, and I agree with them too. I don't disagree, but it's just the size of the magnitude of this problem is overshadows all these other ones that we winked and nodded and done anyway.
Whose fault is that? Like a portion fault. What percentage belongs to the drug dealers in Mexico? What percentage belongs to America?
Well, you could use that argument for a lot of things. And
no, I could. I'm just asking you on this one.
Yeah, on this
what do you
one,
think?
I just think the sheer magnitude and I've had people that's died from the fentanyl, so it's personal to me too. But I just can't understand why, for example, Floyd gets murdered by one policeman, and we have marches by the hundreds of thousands around the world, and 100,000 people a year are being killed by fentanyl, and you hear nothing but crickets.
No, it's not nothing but crickets. I mean, we're doing a ton of stuff to try to stop this, but I listen, if Mexico wanted to get on board with us and say, yes, come help us end these drug dealers, I feel differently about it. But are of you of a mind that if Mexico said, nope, this is our problem, we'll take care of it ourselves, we just say, forget it. We don't believe you. We don't like it. We're going to go get them.
They're corrupt and in the pockets down there. I know Mexico pretty well.
Jack, hey man, great phone call. No reason for you to be nervous. Jack's line is open, 303-696-1971. Jim and Russ, and now whoever fills Jack's line, you'll be there. We'll keep this conversation going. It's an important one. It's interesting. I love Jack's historical references. You stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
So, as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline? You have the cartels controlling a lot of part of your southern border. We have to reestablish the rule of law, and we have to defend our people. The President of the United States has got to use all available powers as commander-in-chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die?
That was Ron DeSantis. He's a candidate for president. He was on the stage at the Fox News GOP debate, first of its kind. The question you heard from Martha and his response, and the questions we've been discussing here. Do you agree with this? Had a great call from Jack from Golden, who set the stage by saying, listen, we've done this before, whether it was the Barbary Pirates or after 9/11. And I can't remember all the examples that he used, but do you agree? Do you agree with Jack that, listen, we've done this before and it was okay? Those are his words. Is it something that we should be doing ourselves here? We should just simply take it upon ourselves to go into a foreign country, one that rubs up against us here at a porous southern border, and just take matters into our own hands and end the drug pushers down there in Mexico. 303-696-1971. Jim from Denver, you're on 710. What do you think, Jim?
Hey, I think the U.S. military doesn't belong inside of Mexico. They're our biggest trading partner, and we have, well, financially, they're one of our biggest financial partners as well. And this relationship is only going to grow in the future. But we have to manage our issues from inside of our country. And you know, when I was 18 years old, on July 2nd in 1988, the USS Vincennes, while we were operating, escorting tankers in and out of the Straits of Hormuz,
right,
shot down an airliner, a civilian airliner going from Bandar Abbas to Abu Dhabi. And there are reasons for that. And we are over there escorting not widgets, but oil in and out of the disputed Iranian waters. So there is cause and there is effect, and there's a lot of negative things that can happen when we don't think and we just shoot from the hip. And these so-called politicians have not engaged their brains, okay? And after that airliner was shot down, the Islamic folks over there came up with a plan that morphed into 9/11. It took years, but it's called the Bojinka plan. They were going to shoot down a dozen of our aircraft over the Pacific. They didn't do it. They never got around to it. There's been a lot of stirring going on inside of Iran.
Did you say Bojangles?
Bojinka. It sounds like
Bojangles.
Bojangles.
It does.
Bojinka.
Okay, you threw me.
So
let me ask Jim, what about those who are going to say, listen, we're losing, and Jack said this, we're losing more people to fentanyl every year than we lost on 9/11 by truckloads. Certainly, there is an opportunity for us to defend ourselves from this. Well, what do you say to that?
It's very simple. If you want to right your country and get rid of these drug dealers that are already here and are free to come and go across the border, you station people on the border, you take it seriously. And, you know, you can use the military like they're on an Air Force or on a Navy aircraft carrier. They do this spod walk down. Before the planes take off and land, so nothing gets sucked up into the engine, they stand 3 feet apart and they walk the deck. They make sure there's no foreign objects or debris. We do that with the military from the northern border to the southern border. And when we find an employer who refuses to use people that are properly vetted, who are bringing in, I don't care whether it's a slaughterhouse or a concrete contractor or Disney, who's full of illegal aliens cleaning rooms, or any restaurant out there that is spreading hepatitis, right? And that's why I call our fast food places hepatitis distribution points. It's because they're full of illegal aliens that are untested. Our food system is full of people that are untested and unhealthy, and we don't take this seriously. All you really got to do, George, is deport once a month, right? Then you can announce it 3 months ahead of time. Say, hey, listen, get rid of your illegal aliens and make sure their paperwork's right, because on the 1st of September, we are going to check your records. And what you got to do is just put them on Fox News, and you'll have one shareholder, one contractor, and I don't know, one homeowner that was found with an illegal alien. And you deport those people to the countries of the origin of the illegal aliens they keep hiring up here.
Jim, I want to revisit
just you're going to do it again in a month.
Just something that you talked about. And listen, I want us to enforce the I-9 stuff, those forms. We don't do it, and I want us to enforce those too. But when you talked about putting troops on the border and stuff, what limitations do you put on them? We've had some texters here that have said, hey, man, we got to put the military down there, and we got to enforce it with lethal force, man. We got to shoot people that are coming across the border. Is that where we're at?
No, you don't need ammo. You just need plastic guns. Hell, we can buy some Chinese plastic guns and put them down there and take it seriously. It's a game down there with the INS. It's a game. They're unfunded. Just take the military, do it down there, show somebody that you're serious, and do it for 15 minutes. And, we've got immigration officers at our airports, right?
Yeah.
Because they're international airports.
Yeah.
And we vet people that way, right? So let's just do it at the border if you want to take it seriously. But I don't believe for a second anybody wants to take it seriously. If DeSantis was serious about it, rather than just blowing hot air, he could go to that golf club down there in South Miami, and he could deport the illegal workers that are at that golf club down there.
Listen, without this turning into a huge immigration thing, it sounds like one of the answers, and I don't know if you support this, one of the things that would take away all the cheap labor, and I think that's where you're going, is that these big corporations and ranches and farmers, they all want the cheap labor, would be to grant all these people citizenship. Are you saying that?
I'm not saying that. However, since you brought it up, that's basically what Ronald Reagan, the other great American president from the Republican Party, did 3 times.
Well, I know that he did when he initially I think he thought they were going to make citizens out of, I can't remember the number, 8 million, 9 million, but it turned out to be more like 11 or 14 million. I mean, it was just a ton of them. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And there's a reason why being a drug dealer in the 1980s was very successful. It's because they didn't care about the laws, the rules. They were trying to supplement the employers in that Central Valley in California, and they ended up with 3 times as many foreigners, illegals, in this country, and they brought drugs. And they exported those drugs from Southern California to all the Midwestern cities, and we had a wonderful time in the 1980s with crack cocaine.
Jim, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the call as always. Jim's line is open, 303-696-1971. Lots to chew on there between Jim and Jack. Let's keep the phones going with Russ from Denver. Russ, what are your thoughts, man?
I couldn't agree with Jim, anymore. He's right on the spot. You got to stop the problem where it starts, not afterwards and then go down and try to take a country over with our military or whatever. I mean, I think it's a money and a power kind of thing, because we'd rather go down there and go into their country, take care of the people over there inside their country. Don't take care of nothing over here in our own country. So it's a money and a money thing again, a power thing. You can't. I mean, this country's been letting illegals in forever, and all we do is come up with. You can give them citizenship, but if he's a drug dealer and he's got a clean record, it's just going to make him easier to come forth and back to bring his drugs in. Like the guy said, in the 80s, it was crack cocaine and everything all over the place. Miami.
So I just want to make sure I got this, Russ. Then do you agree or disagree with Ron DeSantis and Lindsey Graham and the others who want to take military force into Mexico?
Yeah, I disagree. Because if you can't stop the problem where it starts, which is at the border, don't go cross the border and take care of it there. Take it at the border. We need to take care of our country first. If we're letting people in the back door, well, we're going.
Well, I'm losing you. Dang it. Russ, we're losing you there, buddy.
Oh,
we lost you for a minute. It was probably the drug
sorry.
cartels that were cutting you off.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
Well, it could have been. Could very well have been. But anyway, that's, it's just a small. It's a money thing, like cheap labor. You brought it up yourself. That's another reason why we don't want to stop this illegal immigration.
Buddy, I am so Russ, we keep losing you, but you made great points, and I think we'll keep that thing going. Thanks. Russ's line is open, 303-696-1971. It's Jim Day here on 710 because we've got another one. Jim, you're on 710. What are your thoughts?
Good morning, George. Yeah, I was just mentioning to the other gentleman there that if we recall a gentleman named Pablo Escobar.
Heard of him.
I recall when he was finally taken down, DEA was there at the site too, helping him to take him down. They were involved with part of the shoot team. So we have been involved with other countries.
Yeah, but did we massacre the drug dealers down there? I mean, I thought Pablo Escobar was part of a law enforcement / Mexican or Colombian military operation.
Well, we tracked him down. We were the intel that tracked him down.
I don't mind that part. Like that part's different, right? But you're talking about, hey, we're talking about Ron DeSantis saying, I'm going to use the special forces to go into Mexico.
Well, yeah, we did, because I don't think you recall there was a group, a military group in Colombia. They're called the Peeps, something like that. They were a pseudo military. They were truly supplied by the CIA with weapons and all that. They were not recognized by the Colombian government, but they were supported. We supported them through the CIA. So we have done that.
But do you see a difference between that? And I don't mind training and arming, a difference between that and putting boots on the ground.
Well, you know what? I got to be honest with you. We're not serious about it. And until Democrat leadership, their kids start dying, we won't be serious about it. Because, in the end, we could be addressing this more seriously. We're letting all this fentanyl come in. We're just kind of giving fig leaf, saying we're trying. We're not. We're seriously not.
What's the serious steps you'd like us to take if the Dems came around?
Well, the serious step is, first of all, we know the way they're doing it. They send you, if you send so many people across the border, we have to track those people down. Then they send the drugs the other way. We know that's what's going on. We've got so many parts of this border that's unprotected, and they know it as well. We have to, I think Trump was on board on it. We have to protect. We have to put up a barrier and funnel whoever's going to come into this country through the ports of entry, and not incentivize those that don't want to use it going the other way. It can be done. Man, you're smart enough to know. You've heard of Eastern Europe, right? Well, how many of those people out of Eastern Europe wanted to leave? But there was a wall. They had barriers preventing it. Very few people came from Eastern Europe and Eastern
they shot
Germany.
him, man. They shot him.
Yeah, well, they were serious about it.
But hold on,
I'm
glad you brought that up. Is it your position then that what we need to do is not just build a wall, but to defend it with lethal force?
If I see a drug, well, I've seen video of drug cartel people with military-style weapons now crossing into America. They're serious about what they're wanting to do in America. Why aren't we serious?
Yeah, listen, I don't think we can claim we're serious as long as we have this porous border and we do nothing to people that come. I agree with you on that. But I'm interested to know if you think that, hey, once we establish a protected border, we ought to, and some texters have said this too, we ought to shoot people that try to cross the borders. Now, there might be some we might be able to identify based on their military uniforms, but I got to tell you, the word's going to travel quickly. Wear a military uniform and get shot. The drugs are still coming. It ain't just going to be with guys, though, in military uniforms. Do we shoot everybody that comes across the border?
No. Oh, come on.
Well, I'm asking, how do you distinguish? How do you distinguish?
Well, Well, let's put it this way: if you're a male and you're wearing military garb,
I'm saying
you got a weapon. You're
listen.
game.
If you have
if
you're armed and you have military garb, I get it. But what about the drug dealers who aren't dressed like that?
Because
they
coyotes
won't be.
and those guys.
They won't be. Once we start shooting those dudes, I'm telling you, word will spread. Don't dress like that. Don't carry arms openly. That's what'll happen.
Right. At that point, we develop a policy that says if you're carrying drugs across the border, we are going to deal with you very harshly. I'm not saying shoot him, but you're going to be spending the rest of your life in jail.
Okay, listen, if it's about prosecuting these guys, I get it. I'm down with that. But what it sounds like from some, and this is different, right? This is different than sending special forces into Mexico to, I presume, not apprehend, but use violence to end these drug dealers. And the other concern I have is, Jim, before we let you go, is doesn't that mean we also have to look at China? I mean, China's the source of the fentanyl. They know where it's going. They're as complicit as the Mexican drug pushers. Don't we have to then say, hey, China, you're actually sort of tacitly invading us as well. We're going to take you out if you don't stop the flow of fentanyl. Do we do that with China?
Well, I mean the point. I mean, you probably listened to Pete on Saturdays. Pete has been very strong. This is China's payback for what happened to them in the opium wars, and they basically are saying, okay, you did that to us, we're doing this to you. I mean, in the point we have economic means where we could address China and say, unless this is all coming from you, the raw product, if you don't stop it, we're going to do X, Y, Z economically, and it's going to hurt you. I bet you. We're just pussyfooting around on this whole issue because
why are we doing that?
We don't value our own citizens. We don't value our own kids. It's okay. You know what? I've seen our media cry crocodile tears when the guy, when our Border Patrol people were fake showing them whipping Haitians. I haven't seen our media cry anything about all the young Americans that are dying right now. Our media is complicit in all this. They don't give a damn about the young kids dying.
Man, I appreciate this phone call. I think it was impassioned. I think it was reasoned. Jim, I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to react to it. So let's give them the chance at 303-696-1971. Jim's line and only Jim's line is open. You can fill that. Jay and Lewis, I promise I'm going to get to you. I'm going to do a little bit of business here and telling you about Gay Ribble. If you listen to our buddy Brian Gray from Alpine Planning in the 7 o'clock hour, he told you Jerome Powell and the feds are up there at Jackson Hole. They're going to make some other pronouncements here, and he fully expects that they're going to announce they're going to raise interest rates again by another quarter point. Listen, if you've been waiting, I'm waiting for I was thinking about this too. Some people had told me 6-7 months ago, oh, by the summer, we're going to see a downturn in the rates. Well, we haven't seen them, and it looks like they're going to continue to creep up. If you want to strike while the iron is hot, because it sounds like things are going to get even more challenging, pick up the phone today and call Gay Ribble with the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. If you're interested in seeing how much you can get for your house, not only does she know how to navigate these financial waters, but she's also got 14,000 plus buyers in waiting over decades of doing this. People who just sit there and wait for you to list your house with Gay. Boom, it goes out to them, and then the feeding frenzy begins. That's what drives up the price of your house. At the same time, she knows the magic of how to navigate these treacherous waters and putting you and your family into a dream home. All you have to do to get that benefit. Oh, also the guarantees, by the way. The guarantee to sell your house at a certain price at a certain time. They do that. Then they back it up with money if it doesn't get done. But my guess is they don't really have to do that much because they win. Give them a call at 833-301-SOLD, 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 or check her out at gayhasthebuyers.com. That's gay, Gaye, hasthebuyers.com. When we come back, Jay, Lewis, everybody else, the text, there's so many I'm trying to get to them, but keep them coming in. We'll read some of them on air as well. If I could, I'd read every single one of them. It's just you guys are great at the texting thing. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at CastleRockCDJR.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Just a small town girl right here on 710 KNUS. Join me, won't you, in a conversation about these comments by Ron DeSantis and other Republicans about using military force in Mexico to end this poisonous, homicidal, fentanyl-fueled thing that's going on over the border here. We've had a lot, really interesting commentary. I'm really taken today with people's thoughtfulness on this thing, as well as the reflection on some of the historical stuff. These are not easy answers, but I'd love to explore them with you. We're going to keep this thing going with Jay. Jay, you're on 710. What do you think?
Oh, not too much. George, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we had a little camp down in Punta Banda, Ensenada, which is just south of Tijuana on the Mexican, front of the Pacific. 25 years, just raised Baja out of there, do all kinds of great stuff. And the problem with Mexico is real simple. They have 1%, like England, of what I'll just call royalty, and everybody else is just in real tough shape. They don't make any decisions. As the law enforcement is crooked. We all know the situation. So currently, we have an influx of powerful drugs killing our children. A friend of mine's child, 9-year-old boy.
Oh, God. How did the 9-year-old die?
The parents were addicted. So they live just west of Broadway at Cayley, just there by the Land Rover dealership in Littleton. And I woke up, a few months ago, for him texting me saying, hey, I can't be there. He finally told me what happened. His nephew was dead. So this is influx of poison coming from our southern border. And it has to be stopped at any cost. Some of the case history, and by the way, the two guys before, the one guy that really, really spoke with you about everything he said, I agree with.
Is this Jack from Golden?
Arm to arm, phalanx, the Vulcan phalanx. So, we did this, the Pinkertons did this when Alexander Graham Bell and Watson wanted to make a phone call from Chicago, believe it or not, just east of Denver. They put up the Pinkertons with guys on mountaintops with rifles,
right,
to keep. Unfortunately, the American Indians realized those telephone poles and those wires going there were not a good thing, so they were cutting the wires down. So they were able to make this phone call with security from the Pinkertons. Now we've got military all over the place, and we can protect our southern border. We can stop people from coming in. Yeah, people are going to get hurt. The drug dealers will get killed, and I'll be there for their funeral. I hate them. And second issue is we are being colonized. We are being colonized, and some of the folks in Mexico believe that the last 4 or 5 states from the Alamo still belong to them.
Well, so you think this is a concerted effort by the Mexican government to engage in this?
By the Republican Democratic Party. They're singing to the bank every day with free labor. Go and get anything done right now, food, your car washed, anything in Colorado, and not have an illegal be involved. Give me a go.
So you think it's us that's making this happen?
Absolutely. We're allowing it.
So if
just
that's
like
the
if
case,
your parents allowed drug dealers in your bedroom.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then can or should our response be, well, hell, we're just going to light you up. We're going to send our special forces down into Mexico, and we'll take care of it at the source.
We do it all over the world. We've done it for 200 years, and we are killing our children. And Trump was their big barrier. He was putting up a fence. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
A fence? Can you believe it?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm not convinced it's the same thing as other things that we've done across the globe. I know we've definitely been interventionists. I don't know that we've ever had a thing quite like this, where we've said we've got this permissive drug culture and we're the ones permitting it, and a porous border, we're the ones keeping it porous. And as a result of the combination of those two things, we're now going to use military force. It sounds like against the will of the Mexicans, or at least without their consent, and we're just going to show up and start killing people.
Well, no, I think we should go down there and free them and get rid of what they call law enforcement, which it is not.
Hold on. Are you saying overthrow the Mexican government?
I'm talking about the top layer of people that are infected. We're good at that. That's what CIA does.
Who's infected? What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, from the president on down.
So we're going to go in and take out the government of our southern ally, Mexico.
Okay. Let me explain. El Chapo had 6 big backhoes. All they were doing was burying the cash he was making off of killing our kids with the drugs.
I understand that.
They didn't even know where to bury the money. So that's how corrupt it is down there.
I get there's corruption, but is that where we're at now? Is we're going to send the military or the CIA or someone in to eliminate another elected government's leaders?
Perhaps reinstate. That's what they use, right? The word called reinstatement. Also, if a sniper from our southern border is constantly lobbing shells in and killing innocent people, wouldn't we stop it? There is no difference between
There is a
fentanyl
difference. There is a difference. Someone launching, missiles or artillery, whatever, in across the border is different than the fentanyl piece. I'm not saying that fentanyl isn't a scourge and it shouldn't be ended, but it's different than military-like warfare being conducted on the southern border. It's just different. It can't be, people have died in each circumstance, therefore it's the same conduct.
Perhaps they don't have to have the same targeting and acquisition, but their target is to kill people. Fentanyl offers no purpose to the American people on the street. However, fentanyl is used in hospitals for very serious reduction of pain to your internal systems. Doctors use it. So currently we have someone that is broadcasting like a shotgun these drugs all over the place, and they're killing our young and the people that are standing on the street corners, frozen, with all the drugs that they're doing. I don't know if it's fentanyl or whatever, but these people stand on the street corner at 15th and Colfax. They won't move for like 10 minutes. They don't even twitch.
No, I get it, man. I think there's an intervening thing here, though, that separates this from the launching the missile over. There's a consensual role that the drug consumer plays in there, that you don't when a missile is fired into your home or into your car or something. That's different.
But the Mexican people, by and large, are wonderful, kind people. Most of them are Christian. They're very nice. They are being controlled by a totalitarian government. And gosh knows we're good at doing that. Now it's time to do it, I think.
Jay, I appreciate the call, my man. Have a great weekend. 303-696-1971. Jay's line is open. We've got Lewis and Dave and somebody named Mitch Floria. No, not on the phone, but Mitch Floria could be on the phone if you picked up yours and dialed the cell phone that rings in his pocket at 303-386-5919. Why would you ever call Mitch Floria? Oh, I don't know, just because you want to increase the value of your home and make your home look even better on the inside. Maybe it needs a little bit of a tummy tuck and a facelift. Best place to start is with that kitchen countertop and bathroom countertop. This is a guy, and I tell you this all the time because I want you to know how important it is that he listens to this show and he values others like him that listen to this show. This guy's already going to extend to you the wholesale prices. That's not how he does his business. He doesn't mark up these things like a lot of the other folks do. This craftsman/businessman is the kind of guy that says, you get the wholesale prices, but here's the deal. You tell me that you listen to the George Show and that's where you heard this. You tell him you're a 710 listener. He throws in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, and that makes sense too. Sometimes you just don't have the ability to get it all done at once, or maybe you just want to upgrade one room. That's cool. He's still going to make it worth your while because you tell him you're a George listener, a 710 listener, and you get the sink for free with the countertop package. You just can't beat that kind of a deal, especially when you consider the quality and the long-term relationship he's trying to build with folks out there in the community. 303-386-5919. 303-386-5919, or you can check him out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. Let's go right back to the phone lines. Lewis from Aurora, you're on 710. Lewis, what do you think?
Yeah, George, where's the Mexican army?
I presume they're in Mexico.
Now? Well, how come they're not on the border? Weren't they on the border when Trump was president?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
And why don't we just use because if the Mexican country, the president doesn't send his military back to the border to stop what's going on, then it's time to. We know where the labs are. We know that.
Yeah.
I mean, our spy satellites, we know where they're at. Let's just send a couple of drones. Forget if the Mexican government does not secure their side of the border and stop the fentanyl, then it's time for us, to send a couple of drones to knock out those labs. We know where they're at. We need to take care of the situation. The Mexican government, If they don't send the military on the border like they did when Trump was in office, they are corrupt. They're filling their pockets, or they're so scared of the cartels, then we need to do something to take these people out.
Louis, do you feel the same way about the Chinese? I mean, let's say we know where the labs are that the Chinese are making the fentanyl out of, that we absolutely know is coming over to the Mexican drug dudes who are pressing it into pills and sending up over our border. Should we also tell the Chinese, hey, either end this or we're sending missiles into your country?
Well, no, because like one of your callers said, we have the economical situation that we can deal with them. We can let's make the strong case to the Walmarts, to the Sam Clubs, and those. No more Chinese items coming to America. Folks, make the case to the American people. I will say, okay.
Well, wait a minute.
I'll do it.
Why haven't we done that already then? I don't understand.
Exactly.
We're just going to shut off trade with the Chinese? I don't think that's possible.
It is possible. It is possible.
Honestly, I don't think it's possible. And even if it were, I think that we cripple our economy. We might cripple theirs, but I think we cripple our economy.
Well, no, we wouldn't do that. If the people are willing to sacrifice a bit of their comfort to realize
they're not.
We need to
You and I know that, Louis. That is a generation long ago.
I know, but that's what we need to do. I mean, because the Chinese, we make it the case to the people. Look what Trump did. Didn't he put tariffs and say, "Woo, hey, we're gonna," and the Chinese decided, "Ooh, boy, this is not a good deal." So whether we increase the tariffs,
we have the ability to put the economic screws to Mexico as well.
Well, then let's do that to them, because the Mexican government is making a lot of money, and we need to deal with these people more harshly. Enough is enough. And put our military on the border also and say, oh, no more.
Let's play this out, though. We put the military on the border, clearly a visible deterrent. I get all that stuff. But then still people come across the border. What does the military do with them?
Turn them right back. Say, you turn back now.
Mm-hmm. And then
turn back
and then what?
Now. And that's it. They have to, I mean, if they see the military there and say, look, we're not giving you any asylum here. You go back to Mexico. I don't care if you're from Africa, from Uganda, wherever you're from. You're not crossing our border. Go back to Mexico. That's it.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
I'm not even sure how much military that would take to cover those miles of border.
Well, I tell you,
would you use force to stop them? Because some of these folks on here, Louis, you've heard this. Callers and texters have said, hey, we got to use lethal force to protect that border. I understand from the guys that are dressed in the military garb with the weapons. I understand that. That's different. I'm talking about, do you use lethal force to protect the border from anybody, everybody?
No, not lethal force. But you can, when they come over, you tell them, turn around, go back.
And if they say, hey, man, I'm just going to go to another place in the border, like we can't have people shoulder to shoulder in the military covering the border. We can't do that. So there's going to be gaps, right? So,
we're being invaded, George.
So what are the limits of what you do to end that invasion?
Turn around and cuff them up, put them on a bus, send them back on across with cuffs on them.
Yeah.
I don't care what they are.
I appreciate the willingness to self-restrain there too, Louis, because I think it's too easy for some folks. And Louis, thanks for the call, man. Have a great weekend. To say, yep, we're being invaded. We got to use lethal force to stop them from invading us. It is one thing to have a coordinated invasion managed by some government for the purposes of taking over. It's another thing to have this situation, which I think is so addressable that we don't address it through controlling that southern border, but we just don't seem to have the will to get it done. But what's the answer when it comes to these drug labs? 303-696-1971. Dave, you're next. Manuel, you're up after that. And then anybody else that calls in, I'm still working my way through these texts. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
I'm so into you. Tell me what you want. That's why I wasn't a pop star, but I am on the radio willing to talk with you about the topic of the day. And that's, what do we do about this Mexico fentanyl stuff? Are we using military down there? Is Ron DeSantis right? Day one, send the special forces to go do a little lethal action on these folks. Dave, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think?
Well, George, let me ask you, what is the difference between the U.S. invading Mexico for corruption and fentanyl and Putin invading the Ukraine for corruption and Nazism?
Well, I will say this. I think what Putin is doing going across the border is for the purposes of acquiring Ukraine, or as much as possible, and then subjugating it to his will. I don't think that would be our intention. We're not looking to take over Mexico. We wouldn't be looking to do that. I'm not really interested, by the way, in this regime change thing. I do think corruption's an issue. We ought to fight against it. We ought to try to help, Mexico deal with that. But I don't think it's our business to go down there and change out the Mexican government any more than I think it's our business to say, hey, there's problems you're creating for us down there. If you don't fix it, we're going to go in on day one of DeSantis's term and eliminate them using military force. What do you think?
I think that the action is the same.
Why is it the same, though?
Because you're invading another country.
Yeah, but isn't the purpose of the invasion and how long it's supposed to last, doesn't that matter? Like, Ukraine isn't moving in to stop some claimed threat, and that's what we'd be doing, and then go back to Russia. He's looking to take over. He's looking to grab up Ukraine, right? He's going to absorb it.
But you're justifying invading a sovereign nation.
I'm not.
To solve one of your problems.
I'm not justifying it. That isn't me, man. I'm the guy that's saying.
Well, but it is being justified because you're
by some texters and callers. I'm reluctant to use the military on day one without the consent or cooperation of the country that's involved. Now, if Mexico said, "Hey, let's do a joint ops and we'll try to help you end this thing," great. But us just deciding we're going in, I don't know, man. I don't think that's right.
No, I don't think it's right either.
Well, then what's the answer? Let me take you to that next level, Dave. What's the answer to this whole fentanyl thing?
Well, the answer, it goes to the lawlessness in our society. We allow lawlessness.
You're right about that.
You become more harsh if it becomes something that you have to face now as an offender instead of months from now or years from now. It changes the equation. As it's always been said, the closing of cell door does more for religious conversion than anything else. We're letting people do this, and then we wonder why they do it.
Yeah. Listen, Dave, great call. Thanks, man. Keep doing it. Keep calling in 303-696-1971. Let's finish up with Manuel. Manuel, you're on 710. What are your thoughts?
Well, the callers that you had call in don't really know what they're talking about with respect to the Mexican political party. Mexico's a multi-party country. PRI was the predominant party up until the 80s, which brought in the PAN, P-A-N, which President Fox, supported by the United States, took power in Mexico. Mexico is not a totalitarian government, and the fool that said that doesn't know his political systems.
I don't think it's totalitarian either. I think what they're trying to say is, hey, there's so much corruption going on here that the will of the people is actually overborne by this corrupt, empowered government. Now, I don't know the answer to that. You might.
The problem with their position is if they mentioned El Chapo, well, what happened with El Chapo's capture is that the CIA, in conjunction with the Mexican military, took down El Chapo. There was a coordinated plan to take El Chapo down. The Mexican government is trying to get rid of these a-holes. But the problem is that there's corruption on both sides of the border. There's money been historically paid on both sides of the border to turn their backs as these criminals bring in their drugs. And unfortunately, the drugs they're bringing in are being brought in for the purpose of feeding Americans who are stupid enough to buy and pay for and take these dangerous drugs.
Well, addicted and probably unknowing. I agree with all that stuff. What's it, Manuel? And we don't have a ton of time, but I want to give you a chance to answer this. What are your thoughts on using the American military to end this fentanyl press thing and the drug dealers down there and all that? Like, what's the answer? And I only have 30 seconds for you, buddy. I'm sorry.
Okay, they're a sovereign nation. Talking about attacking a sovereign nation for any purpose is idiotic. They have not attacked us. We should not attack them. We ought to do a coordinated offensive against these people by having the CIA partner with the Mexican military, as they did with the El Chapo case, and do what's right and rid the country of Mexico and the country of America from these illegal, dangerous drugs.
Manuel, I can't thank you enough, man. Way to punch it out there right at the end. Have a great weekend. Listen, we are just about out of time. Look, these are the kind of conversations you just don't get to have anywhere else. I mean, I tool around the radio from time to time, and there are a lot of radio hosts that'll just talk at you. It would bore the hell out of me if it was just me. I love it that you guys text in, you call, and let's keep that going. At 3:00, it's going to be Deb Flora. Help her out, do that too. And then Stephen Tubbs, man, limited time left on the shelf. Go after that fella, 4 to 7. Billy and I will be back on Monday from 6 to 10 a.m. Have a fantastic weekend. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.